Okay.
We're back.
We are back. We are still black.
Wait, you are?
Huh?
Huh? What? You're just not really tanned? I thought you were really tanned this whole time.
I am. I'm the tannest Irishman you'll ever see.
Oh, very true.
Okay, who we got with us? Who's ready for this Robbie interview?
I hope everybody brought their juicy questions.
Stinky Tron is with us.
I hope everybody has their juicy questions.
Stinky Tron.
We have Crazy Rabbit, Kent. Of course, Kent's going to have a ton of questions.
Kent went for 6 some odd hours last night.
Oh, that's nothing for him.
That dude can just pull records. I bet he could do a pubness 3 days in a row without sleep, food, and water.
Oh, yeah. That's just like the tip of the iceberg for him. Davey, Uncle Chrome,
Davey,
Sacretron, the man with 3 names.
the man with 3 names.
Peter James Stephan.
Peter James Stephan. You can say it in any order, and it's
fine.
It
Stephan
still
James
works.
Peters.
Stephan James Peters.
James Stephan Peters.
James Stephan.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's fine.
I wonder,
Yeah.
I wonder if he was on the pubness last night.
Oh, I don't know.
Could have been.
Yeah.
Cobra Kai Dojo.
Cobra Kai Dojo.
His first question was, who's this Robbie bloke you have on tonight? Anyone we know? And I said, no, we have no idea who he is. Have no clue.
No clue.
This is the reason why we have him on. We're trying to make him famous. We have.
I think he is in his own mind.
In his own right.
You know.
Mario is nothing without Luigi.
I was just going to say that.
He's famous for looking like Mario. Let's put it that way, Peter.
His cousin, Wario. Wait, was Wario his cousin or a nemesis?
A friend. I think it's his. Oh wait, cousin.
Is it his cousin?
Yeah, cousin. I believe so. Yeah. Nobody else can see this but me. But I can see Robbie in the backstage, and all he's doing is just shaking his head. We'll bring you in shortly, Robbie. Don't you worry.
Wario.
Uncle Chrome, Uncle Jerry's World, Steve, of course. So Steve and Uncle Chrome are our moderators tonight. So they will be posting questions that I've missed in our Discord for
and
me.
there's a lot to go over.
Yeah.
And feel free to ask them questions if it's pertaining to S.O.R because they know a lot. So
Yep. Biscuit, Boshtik 247.
Bostic.
A Bobble Bostic.
Mr. Bostic. Whoa.
Viral beats too. If you guys want to know, it's like, what's the point in having viral beats on now for an interview?
Yeah.
Right?
If you ain't heard that man's story, but I still need viral on here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're gonna have him on regardless.
He essentially, there was no way we could have done his interview.
No.
Not on this channel.
No. So he kind of gave us a concrete
foundation.
Yeah.
So everybody needs to go watch Viral Beats today. Here's the foundation of my life.
I want to say it's close to 16 hours of.
I think so.
Yeah.
If not more.
If not more.
And then we'll have him on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need viral beats on here.
And
we need all the 3 hours. You know that man can talk.
Yeah.
Possibly 4.
Yeah.
The electronic composer.
The electronic composer.
Let me see.
So many.
Yeah, Dave. Y'all hope Beard is okay. No one's heard from
one's
Man
heard
with
from
Beard.
Beard.
Neil Wharton. Yeah, we haven't heard from Man with Beard. We didn't hear from E-Dub in a while, but he popped up in the chat recently.
Okay.
So that was nice to see.
Yeah.
And he hasn't posted in a while.
Tracker Black.
Yep, Tracker.
Tracker
is
Black
here.
from the waist down is here. Homegrown.
Homegrown.
Yes, very nice. Let's see.
Did you say the gnome that steals our magical dreams?
Yes, I did.
Stinky Tron.
Yeah, he was a great interview last week too.
Little stinker you.
You guys got to go see it. He was great.
VB said he saw E-Dub the other day.
Yeah, he was in our
okay.
chat. He was in our chat too the other day.
Oh, okay.
As well.
I want to pick.
Before we get started, I want to say condolences to everybody who is in withdrawals from TikTok.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. You lost your foundation.
I saw a bunch of just stuff coming in on Instagram last night. I was like, wait, why is everybody posting RIPs on TikTok? I was like, what? Yeah. And we have a TikTok account for S.O.R, but we haven't done really much with it because it's just not our piece of chocolate
But it's sad.
cake.
Some people put a lot of lifetime in that, and they were receiving money from that. So it sucks that some people have to lose income over
sad
it.
both ways, because now some kids get to go out and see what a tree looks like.
Or real.
Now they'll just download some other
Something
app
else.
or well, speaking of sad.
What? What's sad, girl? Well.
What a horrible segue.
Yeah.
Jeez. For that.
For fuck's sake.
Wow.
Speaking of sad, that was kind of that's below the damn.
That's
Well, the tone has been set.
Wait, hold on. We love you, Robbie.
He's even got his red shirt on like Mario would have, just missing the suspenders. And
I want to have this whole typed up thing so we can just list off your accolades and how of a prestige man you are with royalties of lordship. And
he has to be knighted first.
Yeah, but for those of you who aren't watching PSN, then I guess you
should.
You should.
What's wrong with you?
But the man is known. He's been known far beyond symptoms of reality.
And we are very lucky that he actually agreed to come on.
Very fortunate for him to put himself in
my
this
arm's
position.
still sore from when you twisted it behind my back.
Not now, Robbie. Keep that shit quiet.
Breathe the first time when I ask you then.
Yes, just...
You should have learned from Crazy Rabbit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. Everyone here, I assume they already know who Robbie is. But those of you who will be watching this after the live, Robbie, go ahead and explain to the people what you do on the social medias.
I am the host and the owner of Synth Network, which is a weekly YouTube live stream. It kind of spun out of a Facebook group that was started about 5.5, 6 years ago. And when COVID hit, we thought, everyone else is going online doing live streams. Let's do one ourselves. And 250 consecutive shows later, we're still knocking them out every week. So there's that. I also write for gearnews.com. I do write and podcast for Sound on Sound magazine. What else? I do lectures at universities, educational establishments, demonstrations, exhibitions, synthesizer shows. I do seminars, that kind of thing. I do a bit of sound design. Just lots of sort of little things like that, really, all kind of connected with this industry that we call music. So.
And how long have you been doing it, Robbie?
I would say, as far as the online stuff has been concerned, I started writing a blog in the early noughties when it was cool to write blogs. That's what everyone was doing. We didn't have Facebook or anything like that, and so we all wrote blogs, and I started writing a blog because I like writing, I like talking. It's kind of connected, and so I started writing this blog. And it started off for the first few weeks anyway, to be sort of just like, this is what I'm doing in my life. And some of that was music technology related. And I actually found that was the thing that I really wanted to write about. And so that's kind of how I started. And I was writing pieces about, instruments that I had a passion for, things like, the Fairlight, and kind of became known for that. So much so that the inventor of the Fairlight some years later got in touch, and we've worked together on a number of projects. So that was kind of a surreal but very rewarding moment. So I've been doing it sort of 20 odd years really, as an online thing. Before that I was just another failed musician that had
Is that where your moniker came from?
Well, no, it was because I was looking for a name for the website, and I couldn't think of anything. I thought it's got to be appropriate to me. It's got to describe me. And I thought, well, what am I? I said, well, I'm a bit of a muser. A lot of people they used to call me a muser. Oh, he's a muso, he is. He's into his music. He likes listening to it and playing it, and he's a bit of a muso. So I thought, okay, well, I'm a muso, but not a very good one. I've got a regular day job and a family, and music doesn't provide me with any income, so I'm kind of a failed muso. And I thought, oh, maybe that's... And I thought, well, I'll just do it, and this will never amount to anything. And
and yet here he is.
And here I am.
So I have a couple of questions and stuff happening in the chat. Steve posted the ProSynth Network, and it's the YouTube, and it's linked in the chat. Uncle Chrome posted Robbie's other website, and it's mario.nintendo.com. So thank you, Uncle Chrome.
My colleagues in Japan run that one.
There you go. And Synchrotron has one very important question and wants to know, Robbie, when are you going to cut your hair?
Do you know, it's funny. My wife said to me this afternoon, she says, God, your hair grows quickly, and it does. And I always thought I was going to end up like my father, who... being Italian, had a nice big thick, set of black hair until he was about 30 something, and then it all just started to just thin out, and by the end he was virtually bald. And I thought, oh, maybe that's how it goes. Maybe my hair just grows really fast and it all falls out, but it's just turning grey. But I will be getting it cut soon at some point. I'll have a shave as well while I'm at it. I'm terrible. I'm really sorry.
Talk about cleaning yourself up then.
There you go.
Well, it was only you guys. So
Andy's second question is, when is Robbie going to sell his keyboards and get a modular synth?
Number one, what is this word sell? Modular, when hell freezes over.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Well, semi all day long for me, but
yes.
yeah.
Robbie,
what about semi-modular?
I don't think he wants to touch either.
No, I've got a synth over there that is technically a semi-modular, but I rarely plug any cables into it. So.
There you go.
You were talking about the failed part, and I wanted to stop you there because that takes us back to the segue of, when he says his actual line. I have to know how you were raised and how it all started from you, because I know you have a bigger story than that.
Before you answer that, welcome back to the podcast.
Yes.
I was going to ask you, hey, is that
I know that's your marker. I know.
Yeah, because we're going to download these on the long form.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So Robbie, take us to it. So normally we ask a lot of people from day one, childhood and stuff like that. Wait, first off, are you the only one? You said you had a brother or
a sister?
You had a sister, and you'll go into that. I want to know something real quick before you start. Where's your family originally from, and are they still there?
As most people know, I'm half Italian. I have an Italian father, direct descendant. He came over here in 1969. My mother is English. Her parents are from, her mother was from the Midlands in the UK, so a place called Tamworth. And my grandfather was originally from Todmorden, and kind of that sort of area near Yorkshire. So there'll be a lot of the Brits will know where I'm talking about. But he was in the RAF, and so he moved around a lot. And so my mum, as a child, moved around a lot. So she never actually kind of said, "Oh, I'm a Yorkshire lass," or I'm from the Midlands. She was all over the place. She spent years in Germany, with my grandfather when he was stationed out there. But my dad is Italian. He came from a little village called Locarno, which is about 50-60 km northwest of Turin, and it's up in the Alps. And he came over in '69. His brother followed him a few years later, left behind his mother, my nonna, and her mother, my beast nonna. His father unfortunately died in 1960, and my grandfather was a partisan rebel in the Italian well, not the official Italian army. It was the rebellion, shall we say?
Oh wow!
They fought for the Allies in the Alps against the Germans, and our family was actually split because my grandfather's brother was a brown shirt, so he was on Mussolini's side, and my grandfather was the complete opposite. And that's how my grandparents met, because my grandfather is from a place called Sumerago, which is nearer Milan, and he was fighting in the Alps and going up the valley. Met my grandmother. They started courting, but of course he would be going up, stationed at various places in the Alps during the war, and they would come down, when there was nothing to do, or they resupply. They would come back down to the village, Lucana, and as soldiers do, they try to make the most of their time, shall we say, with their loved ones. Mm-hmm. And so, whilst he was making the most of his time with my grandmother, the signal went up. So the ladies of the village would be looking out, and they would throw a particular colour sheet or a blanket over a balcony, and that would be a visual signal for all the troops to get back up to their places and their posts. And apparently that happened mid-coitus. and the shock, being Catholics as well, of course, there was no protection, and the shock of it all meant that my father was conceived on that very day, and was born to the sounds of gunfire rattling around the Graian Alps.
Wow!
And that's where he came from. But my grandfather died in 1960 in a terrible motorbike accident. My grandmother was on the back. She was very badly injured, but survived and carried on. Unfortunately, Nonna was killed, and so he'd started a trattoria, like a little cafe, and that was the family business. But of course, he was now dead, so my dad, being the oldest boy, kind of took on the responsibility of being head of the family and took over the running of this place. Ended up working in a steel mill for many years, and at one point in their lives, his younger brother, my uncle, was offered a post at a catering college, as was the thing apparently that back then. And Gianni knew that my dad would be much better suited for it, so they swapped places. And my dad went to catering college, and the lure was that at the end of this, you would be almost guaranteed a job outside of Italy somewhere. So they had lots of connections, and he got sent to a place called Norwich, which is in the east of England, and that's where he met my mother. He came over in October, so do the maths here. He came over in October of 1969, and I was born in July of 1970. He didn't hang around.
No.
Whoa.
So, within a month, he got my mother pregnant, I think. And,
right.
There was I. So I popped along, and, they got married before I was born. In fact, my first trip back home to Italy was before I was born. But there's many subsequent trips after that. We used to go back all the time. And that's where my family comes from. And so on my mother's side, it's all kind of military kind of stuff.
Have you visited Italy?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, I was there 6 months ago.
Oh, nice.
Okay. So
I go back as often as I can.
So you stay active with the family members?
Well, there's not many of them left, unfortunately, because my grandmother passed away along with both of her sisters, all within sort of very short spaces of time. And, of course, their husbands also passed away. In fact, the last one, my great-uncle, passed away about 3 or 4 years ago. So all I've got left out there are my cousin once removed, Claudio. So he's my dad's cousin.
Claudio.
Yeah, and he married a lady called Sally, and Sally actually came from the village that we lived in here in England, where my dad had his most successful restaurant. He took her on as a waitress, I think,
Oh, wow.
and through that met Claudio, and they fell in love. And she's gone back. She went back there 30 odd years ago, started teaching English, and they're still there. So they're the kind of the main sort of side of the family. that's left, and her children, of course. So yeah, there's not many. And my uncle is still alive over here. Unfortunately, my father passed away in 2019. But my uncle's over here, and he's got 5 children, I think. So yeah.
Are your siblings in the UK or in Italy?
So the whole sibling situation is that my parents divorced in 1983 or 82, 83. So I was born in 1970. My sister Nadia was born in 74. Unfortunately, she passed away nearly 4 years after that, so she was very young. And then my sister Gemma came along in 1980. Then my parents split up, and both of them remarried, and both of them had children with their partners. So I've got my sister Gemma, who's 10 years younger than me. Then I've got my half-brother Gavin on my mother's side. And then on my father's side, I've got Lucia and Ben, who are my half-brother and sister on that side. And then I've also got three stepsisters from my stepfather. So, yeah, it's complex. It's not cheap at Christmas.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Well,
Not cheap during Christmas. Is that what you said?
yeah, I bet not. So run us through the childhood. Run us through Robbie being born. And
what's your first memory?
Yeah, like how did it start?
From womb ejection day. So I was born in Norwich, or just outside in a maternity hospital. They used to have dedicated maternity hospitals back in the day, and I was born in one of those. And for the first 3 or 4 years, we lived in small, flats or accommodation, because Dad was still, setting his roots down, trying to get, he was working in, cooking in various restaurants. And in 1973, we moved into above one of the restaurants that my dad worked in the centre of the city. So that was a really exciting sort of time. I remember those are probably my earliest memories of around sort of 3-4 years old, of living in a vibrant city, especially a part of the city that's open until the early hours of the morning, and all of those smells and all of those sounds and everything. That's something that always takes me back. But in 74, my dad went into a partnership with another guy that he worked with, and they started up their own restaurant in this little village about 7 miles outside of the city. So we moved there and we lived above that restaurant for a few years. And as the restaurant became more successful, my dad was able to, get us a house outside of the restaurant. And so we stayed in and around that area until 1982, when my parents eventually split up. I mean, it was when my sister passed away in 78. As it does with so many, unfortunately, so many families, when they lose a child very young, in such a tragic way, she contracted hepatitis, and there was no cure, there was no transplants back then or anything. So it destroyed them as a couple, and it just got very, very bitter and very angry. So they split up in 82, and my mum actually, I was only 12 years old, and my mum actually gave me the choice at the time. She said, if you want to stay with your dad, you can stay with your dad, or you can come with me. And I chose my mum. I don't regret that, because Dad was a very busy man. He had his business, and it was struggling because economically the country at the time wasn't doing that well. So me, my sister, my mum, we moved, and we spent a year with my grandmother, which was a very odd year, because it was a year that I kind of found my identity, because I was now able to kind of break free of the expectations of my father, who wasn't a domineering character that demanded that I should follow in the family business. He in actual fact, he said to me, "You'll never inherit my business, because I know you'd kill it," and I would. And I had no, I grew up in that environment, but I had no desire to go into the catering, restaurateur part of the industry. So. So we lived with my grandmother, and she only had she had a large house, but she only lived in half of it. And we were forced to sleep 3 in a bed, me, my mother and my sister in one bed for about a year, which at the age of 12, going 13, is probably not, ideal. But, my mum was great, because she'd always make sure that I could, go into the bedroom and spend a couple of hours in there on my own, undisturbed, listening to the music I wanted to listen to on my little portable record player. So she, my mum was, she gave me space, but unfortunately, we had to live the way we did. But conversely, like I said, it was when I kind of found myself as an individual. I kind of realized, music was the thing that drove me. It's where I first picked up drumsticks and played drums. It was when I first started hanging out with people purely because of music.
So that was your first introduction to the love of music.
Well, I'd always been really into music from a very early age, because my mum had a great collection of Beatles and Simon and Garfunkel and Rolling Stones and all of this stuff. So I was listening to all of that stuff at a very early age. I mean, I was a Beatles fan at the age of 3 because that's mostly what mum had. So that's what I would listen to. And then I would buy records from charity sales, and even if they were scratched, I would just listen to them. So I was always into music. I wanted to be a DJ very early on. Then I wanted to be a guitarist, a bass guitarist, because Paul McCartney.
Of course you did.
Yeah, and I kind of fulfilled that a little bit, but then in 1980, because you have to remember, people of our age, I say, well, of my age, shall I say, because I don't want to lob you all into the same bucket, but people of my age remember that post-punk period, sort of from 77 onwards, so much changed, and there was something new every week. And I just remember hearing Dog Eat Dog by Adam and the Ants and listening to those drums, and it was an epiphany moment. I thought, that's it. That's what I can do. I know I can do it. I've never done it before in my life, but I know I can play the drums. Right. I feel it in me. So for a couple of years, that was something that never got explored, because it's not cheap to buy drums, and there was still a very gatekeeper ethic at the music department at the school. So you kind of had to be a musician to play all the stuff. But if you wanted to be a musician, well, tough. You couldn't get in the club if you weren't part of. So it was a very horrible thing. But then when my parents split up and we went to this little town about 20 miles away, and I got sent to this school. I changed high school 3 times in 3 years because of my mum divorcing and my mum remarrying. So it was a very stuttery sort of upbringing. But I remember going to this school, walking into... So they just built a new music block, and I'd been there about a week, so I was still very kind of nervous. I'd got a couple of friends, the friends that the teacher assigns to you to kind of look after you. So they're not really your friends, but they've kind of got a responsibility. And we stood in this queue waiting to get into class, and the door opens and we all pile in, and just like most people of 12, 13 years old, music, boring. And we walked in there, and I turned my head and looked over to the left-hand side, and it was almost like one of those moments where the lights shone from heaven down onto this spot in the corner of the music room, because there was this brand new Premier Royale 5-piece drum kit, and it was white, pearl white, and it was just glowing. It was the first time I'd actually seen a full-size drum kit, and having had this kind of moment a couple of years before with Adam and the Ants, I knew that this was where I was destined to be. So we go into the classroom, and I'm pestering these 2 kids that have been assigned to sort of look after me, and I said, how can I get to play that? I want to play those drums. How can I get to play that? And they just said, well, you just ask the teacher, I suppose, because they weren't interested in music. It was a mandatory class that most people never really wanted to go to.
Right.
So the structure of the lesson that day was where the music teacher would say, we're going to listen to a song, and then we're going to break it down into its parts, and then we're going to try and recreate that with the instruments that we have here in the classroom, which weren't, they were just generally chromatic percussion stuff, so xylophones or marimbas, or all those kind of cheap musical instruments that you used to get in the 70s and the 80s. And so she puts this record on, and it's Penny Lane by the Beatles. Now I know that song inside out because for many years previously I'd been listening to the Beatles, and Penny Lane was one of my favourites.
Robbie said, I got this.
I got this. I grew up on this at the age of 3. I got this.
In my head, as this music is playing, I'm like, I wonder if when we try and play the song back, I wonder if I can play the drums. So I'm building myself up at this. So we go through the whole breakdown thing. She's breaking down the melodies and the rhythm and the bass and what have you. It's all very rudimentary stuff, but at the end of it, she says, "Right then, so you guys are going to play this, and you guys are going to play that," and I'm like this. And she goes, "Yes." I said, "Can I play the drums?" And she had this look on her face, like, "Oh my God, there's a kid here that's actually interested in the music, is not just going through the motions."
Right.
So she said, "Yes, of course, come up." And I remember walking to these drums, and they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I was quite a short kid. I'm still not that tall, but at that age, I was very short. And a huge drum kit. And so I picked up the sticks, and she sat by the piano, and I'm sort of settling myself in, having for many, at least the last 2 years, watched every episode of Top of the Pops every Thursday night, religiously watching what drummers do and mimicking it, but never actually playing the drums.
Oh my God. This is getting great. I'm sitting on the edge of my seat, Robbie. Virtuoso is about to happen right now.
Well, this is the thing that I still, when I think about it, I remember the feeling. She turns around because her back was towards me, so I'm sat at the drums. I'm sat like this. She's over there by the piano, and her back's to it. And she turns around, looks over her shoulder, and gives me a smile. She says, "Are you ready?" And I was like, "Yeah." She says, "Okay, do you want to count us in?" And I said, "Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4." And in we go. And it was like, oh my God, I'm doing this. I'm actually doing this. And it wasn't horrible.
Right.
And it was from what I recall, it was in time, mostly. And I was doing the fills at the right spots because all I was doing in my head, I've just got the song because I know the song inside out, and I've got Paul McCartney in my head. I've got Ringo, so because Ringo was my first real sort of drumming inspiration. So you can be a bit sloppy if you're copying Ringo. So I was doing this, and we get to the end of the song, and by this time, all the kids in the class were like, "Oh my God, this kid can play drums." And the teacher looks over to me, and she's got this big smile on her face because she's got I found one. I found a student who actually likes music.
Yeah.
So she asked me to stay behind after class, which was a little bit scary. So all the class go, and she says, "So how long have you been playing the drums?" And I said, 5 minutes. She's like, no, seriously, how long have you been learning? I said, "I've been learning for the last couple of years in my head, but this is the first time I've ever played a set of drums."
Yeah.
That is wild.
That is
I
crazy.
know. So she said, "Okay." And she gave me the freedom of the music room and the rehearsal rooms at any time obviously when I wasn't having other lessons or when there was nobody else in there. She says, "You have access to this. Practice. There's another kid who's actually kind of he's having lessons, and I'll put you together with him." And so for that year, me and this guy Jeremy, we'd sit down every lunchtime. The girls would come in, so it was brilliant. I mean, it was just perfect. The girls would all come in because what we do, we bring in all our records, the hit records of the day, Duran or whatever was going on at the time, and we put them on the record player in the music room, and we drummed to them. And of course, the girls would come in because there's music, and maybe Jeremy was a bit of a looker, so it was great. We've got girls, we've got drums, we've got music. What more does a man want, or a young boy anyway? So yeah, that's kind of where the whole drumming thing started. And then my mum got remarried and we moved. The first thing I did when we got to look at the school that I was going to be going to, I said, "Where's your music department?" And they said, "Oh, it's." They took me over to the music department, and as we're going, they said, "Oh, do you play an instrument?" I said, "Yes, I play the drums." "Oh, I don't know if we've got a drum kit." And my heart just sank.
Oh, no.
So we get in there, and there's no drum kit to be seen anywhere. It's a similar sort of setup, but there's no drum kit. And I was gutted. I really didn't want to start at that school because they didn't have a drum kit. got to start the school, got to my first music lesson, and went to my music teacher, who I'm still in contact with to this day.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
Jeez.
because he was instrumental, if you'll excuse the pun, in sort of what followed.
That's
He
really
said, "Oh,
cool.
yeah, we do have a drum kit. It's in the store cupboard, so go and find it. And at lunchtime you can set it up in one of the rehearsal rooms." And so in I go, and I look in the cupboard, and there's a kick drum in a case. There's a floor tom. There's a snare. All of these are out there, and I'm looking at them. They look like they were made pre-war. I mean, it's horrible, horrible. Eventually, managed to cobble together this 3-piece kit.
A
Kick,
trap
snare.
set. Yeah.
Well, actually, it was 4 because there was a single, so it was 1 up, 1 down. There was a horrible ride cymbal and crash cymbal. The hi-hat was just like hitting 2 plates. It was just terrible.
Oh man.
And I was so disappointed because the last kit was like brand new and we had free range, and there's this. And I remember being like really crestfallen, and I put it all back. And as I'm putting it back, I spy this box, and I'm thinking, what's it? That it's not a guitar case. It's not a trumpet or anything. What is that? So I picked it up, and I noticed this word on there that said Korg. And I thought, that's sad. I've read about Korg, or I've seen it in magazines. Opened up this case. Inside is a Korg 700S, which is their first monophonic synthesizer. And so I thought, wow, this is a synth. This is what. So I go and see my music teacher, and he said, "Oh yeah, we don't. Nobody really knows how to use it." So okay, I'll try, and that was what I did. Because the other thing I kind of skipped over was in '79, I was played by a friend's sister, Our Friends Electric, by Tubeway Army with Gary Newman.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my moment. That was my pivotal moment. Like synthesizers, that's that sound. That's what I'd love to learn all about those. And of course, when I got this out, I was like, wow, I can actually start, exploring this. I knew nothing really about synthesizers. I'd got a couple of magazines that I'd read about, and a book in the library at school. And so I get this thing up, and I find an amplifier. I plug it in. I turn it on, and I hold down a chord, and only one note is playing. And I'm thinking, oh, fuck, it's broken. I couldn't figure this out. And I'm messing around with all these controls, and the sound is changing, but there's only one goddamn note. And eventually the music teacher comes in and says, how are you getting on? I said, oh, it's okay, but this synthesizer, I think it's broken. It only plays one note at a time. He says, yes, it's monophonic. Oh, God, okay. So, early lessons. And well, that's really kind of how the synthesizer thing started rolling then. And I stayed at that school, thankfully, until my exams, and I qualified. I didn't do music, unfortunately, because the exam system back then, you had to be taught or be being taught at a grade level to be accepted onto the course, the music course, and I wasn't, and my parents couldn't afford to do that, either of them. So my music teacher, Barry, he was he kind of saw that there was the enthusiasm that was there, the passion was there, and there was definitely some skill and competency within me playing the drums. So he always actively encouraged me to take part in stuff, and we did. I was a big drama kid at school, Kel Surprise, and I always
You were
tried
dramatic, or you were in drama?
In drama, yeah. Well, I was probably dramatic as well. It was the
Yeah,
80s. I was a
both
teenager.
ways.
Hormones were raging. But I always tried to incorporate music into drama and theatre, and so we did a play called Narrow Road to the Deep North, which is was it Edward Bond? I can't remember that, but it was set in China in the sort of the dynasty years, when the emperors and stuff, and so I said, oh, it'd be great if we could have lots of drums in this. And so my drama teacher said, oh yeah, good. So I then scored that for drums.
Oh, way cool.
Yeah.
Crazy Rabbit said when Robbie figured out that cork was broken. Crazy Rabbit said, and that's when Robbie met Kent to repair it.
Oh, I wish I had met him back then. So that was me up till when I left school, and then then it kind of went to a next level after that.
So when did the writing pop into the mind? Like, I want to write.
Again, at high school, I had a great English teacher who was actually Welsh, but she taught English. She was passionate. She was a right-wing socialist. Sorry, a left-wing socialist. That's a dichotomy there. She was She was Welsh. She was passionate. She was a big political person as well. That's where I got a lot of my politics from her. But she was a brilliant English teacher, and I think English and drama as lessons and classes go together very well, because they're obviously using the same thing, and got into Shakespeare and just loved what you could do with words, painting pictures with words, and I just really enjoyed. I entered a writing competition, I think aged about 7 or 8 years old, when I wrote this story, and I was trying to write a story about something, and I said to my mum, I said, I don't really know what to write about, and I can't remember where I got the idea from, but do you know what psychosomaticism is? No. So it's when you have the symptoms of an illness, but you don't have that illness. You're basically, your brain tells you
asymptomatic, basically.
Yeah. So if you're psychosomatic, you have the symptoms of the illness, but you don't have the illness. And for some, I don't know where I got this from, aged like 7 or 8 years old, but it fascinated me that you could be ill but not be ill. So I concocted this story about a young boy who lost his sight and went blind, but it turned out he was psychosomatic. And of course it was a big word, and I thought, I could put this in there and be very impressed. I won a prize for it at some writing competition in the 70s. So the passion for writing has always been there, and like my dad, I talk a lot, as you probably guessed, and so it's just a great way of maybe save the voice but put the words down on paper. And so I always liked writing. So when the internet came around and there was this trend of writing down one's daily life, blogging and all this kind of stuff, I thought, oh yeah, there you go, here's a way of getting it out of the system. And so that's when I started the blog, and I found that I could this is my little corner of the internet. I could write about what I wanted. I could practice my writing, and hone the craft as much as I could. And because of that writing, it's got me noticed or introduced to, or put in front of a whole huge amount of people that have had a great sort of impact on my life, and now I find myself doing it semi-professionally, for the last few years. So it's that's weird.
Was there any other profession or any other job that you upheld before writing and music, or did you just jump straight into the races of the writing and music?
So when I don't know what it's like over there, but when you're getting towards the end of your high school years, it's not always the case that you're going to go to college or university or further education. In fact, most of us didn't. Most of us just wanted to get a job so we could earn some money, so we could get a car or do whatever. But at the end of your sort of high school years, it was compulsory to go and see a person who was called the careers officer, and it was just basically somebody from, I don't know where they're from, the job centre, the employment agencies kind of thing, or the government-run employment agency. And they would sit you down and they would say to you, the first question is, so, what do you want to do when you leave school? And my answer was, I want to be a rock star. And she looked at me as if to say, okay, got a tough one here. She said, well, I'm afraid there's no There's no courses for being a rock star at college or uni or anything. How about we sign you up for a course in electronics? And I was semi-excited by it, but not really. So I said, okay. So I signed up for this college course, and I did about 3 weeks, and I just dropped out because it wasn't anything to do with what I wanted to do. Looking back retrospectively, I wish I'd stuck at it because it could have made a big difference, later on in life, but I didn't. So I ended up signing on, which is, the term we use for, claiming benefits, whilst I'm not employed. And the shame of that, I had a massive work ethic instilled in me by my father, and it was just like, to not be working was quite a shameful thing. Mm-hmm. So I was just looking for any job that would pay me some money. And a friend of mine had just got a job working at a local grocery store, supermarket thing, and he said, oh yeah, it's not bad money, and all we do is like fill the shelves. And it seemed like, okay, I'll do that. And a job came up at a store, and I went along and got the job, and I was then in retail for the next 15 odd years. And music was always then, and everything else was just a sideline.
Right.
So yeah, I just entered the working world, but I joined bands, played drums in bands. In this local area, we were very busy for a number of years, and then that eventually sort of subdued. I met my first wife. We got our place together. We didn't have anywhere to store the drums. I'd left the band. I sold the drums. I got into photography for a bit. Regretted selling the drums. Mm-hmm. Bought a bass because I thought, yeah, I'll do the bass now because I can store that. I can put that in the corner of the room. It doesn't take up much space. Started learning my scales. Wasn't very good because I got short fingers, and it was just not very. I bought that bass. I think I showed you the picture on Discord.
Yeah, you did. It was a nice bass.
Aria Pro 2 IG50 active bass. It was gorgeous. All I wanted to do was be Mark King from Level 42. That's all I ever wanted. But I couldn't do the whole thing, so that then just sat in a corner until I sold it a few years later. So yeah, and then the job. I got out of retail. Eventually, got into computing with Gateway Computers. So I was working for them, selling systems to businesses, and then I got into training, as in education training, and I've been a trainer or in the training industry since early 2000s, and that had me traveling all around the world and what have you for many years until that stopped, pre-COVID. And that's what I do now. I'm an instructional designer. That's my job title at the day job. Mm-hmm. But I'm very lucky because I can do that all from this very desk in this very seat, and I'm horribly distracted. But it's a good job, pays well. And then last year, the year before last, I was starting to get more writing work, and to the point where the money that I was bringing in from that, which isn't huge, but it was enough to start raising flags with the Inland Revenue. So I set up a business just to cover all of that, and bundled ProSynth Network into that, and it's starting. Great first year. We don't owe anybody any money. Haven't got a huge amount in the bank, but all our lovely supporters help with that, and of course I put all of the stuff in from my writing, so I'm able to go to exhibitions and shows and what have you. So yeah.
Okay. Let's let's kind of switch gears, but stick with the writing. I got to be careful how I ask this. Okay. Anyone you have one employer, correct? And that's who you just described.
Yeah, so my day job, the job that actually pays the bills and puts the food on the table.
Okay, so essentially one employer.
Yeah.
So you're not collecting revenue from any other source other than YouTube. Is that safe to say?
No, I get paid for all of my writing work.
Okay.
because I'm essentially I'm a freelance writer, so I get paid by Gear News for every article that I write. I get paid by Sound on Sound for every article I write or every podcast I deliver, and then any other. I mean, that's like 95% of the income in that area. The other is YouTube earnings, donations. That all gets put into that all gets put into the ProSynth Network pot, and that's every year when we have to renew Streamyard, or we have to buy some merchandise, t-shirts for the guys, which I'm going to be doing very soon. That all comes out of there.
Right.
But the money that I earn from all my writing and stuff is secondary to my main income.
So that's freelance work. None of these entities own you contractually, correct? Like you're just freelancing. And if
in terms of the music writing and stuff, I mean, my day job, I'm a contracted full-time employee there.
Okay. I wanted to make that clear for the viewers, so there's no mistaking about how I'm asking this question and why I'm asking it. Or maybe it's even a statement. But if you're a writer, and give me some time to try to figure out how to work this out as I'm talking. If you're a writer, you are responsible for numerous things, and perhaps maybe some variables you can't account for after said article is published, or maybe before you've published it, and you have to sit. Wait a minute, before I submit this article, let me have a let me get some more factual stuff. Let me think about this before it's out there in the public. So writers have a very huge responsibility in this world.
Yep.
If you're a good enough writer, you can sway the mind of a man or a woman. If you're a good enough writer, you can convince people of unworldly things. If you're a good enough writer, you could turn a devout Christian into an atheist. And the whole just begins to get bigger, and it just keeps going. So with that said, how much accountability do you have to yourself when you put out an article and it could be looked at as you're being bought by someone, or someone's paying you to say certain things? How can Robbie defend himself and put out quality work at the same time?
It's difficult. It's something that gets thrown at people like me and my peers frequently. To do what I do, this is just purely looking at the music technology world. To do what I do, to write about products, essentially, or services, you have to therefore have some experience of that product or service. So if a manufacturer of synthesizers has got a brand new synthesizer and they want you to review it, you've got to spend some time with that instrument. The easiest and most convenient way is for them to send you said instrument. So they say, here you go, we'll send you one of these. It might be a prototype. It might be a pre-production model. It might be, excuse me, it might be the actual, production quality. But they will, they send it to you. Now, this isn't just in the world of synthesizers. One of my colleagues at Gear News also writes for a automotive magazine. He gets sent cars. They'll take them back after a month or so, but every week every month he'll be having a new car delivered to his home address, and we're not just talking your regular stuff. It's generally the fast, speedy, sporty, sexy cars that he has to unfortunately spend a month with driving around at the cost of the manufacturer, because they want him to experience it so he can then write about it from a position of authority. Now, you can absolutely, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because I know it does, but it happens on a very small scale. you can get people who will negotiate on those transactions.
Okay, Robbie, stop. I just want you to know I've asked this question for a very particular reason, so I'm kind of throwing it in you as in a means for you to protect yourself and explain to people too as well. I know what others can do, but there can be some things out there solely against you and your writing. So just keep that in mind.
Like as far as being a shill.
Right. Or
Yeah.
not even that. You know,
I've been called a shill for many years for many different reasons. One of the first things I did when I started to really sort of focus on my blog, this is before I was writing for magazines or online people. Okay. I was just doing it for myself. Somebody said, because I would only review things, because at the time, you know, this is a hobby back then. I was only able to review things that I had bought myself, and that was that. And eventually, you run short of that because you're not able to buy, you know, all the new stuff all the time. So anything that I had, I'll review this piece of software that I use. I'll review that instrument that I use. I'll review this, this drum kit or whatever. But it gets to a point where you run out, and there was a forum, a forum that was very focused on a particular instrument. I met lots of really cool people there, and one guy was a very eccentric New Yorker, and he emailed me one day and he said, "Oh, there's this company. They've just put out a sample library that's based on the Emulator 2." And he knew that I was into my old vintage samplers. And he said, "You should review that." And I said, "Yeah, but I can't afford." I think it was $200 or something. So I haven't got $200 to spend on that, I'm afraid. So he said, "Just ask them. Just email them and ask them for it." And I said, "I can't do that." He said, "Of course you can. That's what they do." So I emailed them, and they came back to me and said, "Sure." I gave them all my web stats, and they said, "Yeah, okay. So here's a copy, and you can review it." Now, with a piece of software, you can't give it back. You know, it's just one of those things. And all of a sudden, I thought, "Oh, is this how it works?" You ask people, and if they, you believe that, or they believe you've got a reach to get to an audience, then they'll happily oblige you with sending you a free copy of the software. And that was pretty much it. It was always software. That's an easy transaction to make. But we as writers and reviewers, whether you're just a hobbyist writing a blog, or whether you're a semi-professional, professional writer writing for a magazine or a whatever, you have to do these transactions because it's just physically impossible for you to do your job if you don't have that sort of facility there. But I have never, apart from one instance, and I think I probably covered this when we had our little powwow a few weeks ago, there was only one instance where a manufacturer or a developer instructed me on what I should say or what I shouldn't say, what I should and what I shouldn't say in my review. And I instantly turned around and said, "I've deleted your software. That's not how I work. I'm completely independent. People expect me to be independent. However, I was still being accused of being a shill because I'm really positive about music technology, even the bad stuff. I always try and look at the positive side of it. If I get excited about something, I'll express that in my review, whether it's a video review or whether it's a written review. I'll always call out where there's something lacking, but I will always pay the developer or the creator or the manufacturer the respect of speaking to them about it first before I write about it. So if somebody sent me a synthesizer and every other note played wrong, I wouldn't write a review and said this synthesizer is rubbish, every other note plays wrong. I would first of all go to the manufacturer and say, is this how it's supposed to be? And say 99 times out of 100 they come back and say, "No, that's a bug and we're fixing it." So you either delay your review or you review it and say it has an issue, but that's not going to be part of the finished product. So I've always, and my peers are the same as well, and we get comments in the comment section on Gear News. "Oh, you're just giving them a positive review because they sent you it for free," and that's not the case. It really, like, the thing is, people can accuse me of being a shill, or me and my colleagues and my peers, but how can I defend against that?
I don't think
other
you
than
can.
you know, this synthesizer sits here. They sent this to me. They've never asked for it back, but they might do. But they never did. They've expressed their gratitude for me, writing about it and speaking about it. They've never said, though, you can keep that because you did a really good job. That never happens. But how can I tell people who, in their heads they think, oh, you're just shilling, you're just you're giving them good reviews because they gave you the gear for free? No, they gave me the gear for free because how else would I be able, I don't have the money to buy all of this stuff. Some of it I do, but a lot of it I don't. And I get sent a lot of things that I have to send back.
Right.
Some do, some don't.
I wonder if the tables would turn if the people that question it, and they have a good following, and someone like Korg takes notice of their channel and reach out to them and say, hey, we noticed that you're on the uptick. Do you want to? We want to send you something, and you can keep it, and you can be as honest as you want. We're not going to have you say anything, but we just want you to review the product and put it out on your channel. But the only thing is, just let us know what you think of it before you put it out on your channel. And then, so for those that judge, now they're in that situation, and now they have an opportunity to review something, and I wonder what they would think
if their community came to them and said,
now you're a shill.
Right.
Exactly.
And then how do you defend yourself from your own community? I think here's the thing. I think for people that claim that writers and other people that have these opportunities to review certain products, here's what I would say to people that would hate on someone like that. I would say, do your due diligence, make yourself better, make yourself worthy enough, however hard you can try to build up a community and reputation. Reach out the way Robbie did, email, and try it for yourself. And then if you get an opportunity one day, and then only then, maybe then you'll see what it's like to try to defend yourself from not being a shill. Because you will never be able to defend yourself, Robbie, number one.
No, I know,
because
exactly.
with the polarities of human beings, you're always going to have haters. And haters are always going to treat you the way they want to treat you.
But that's not to say there aren't shills.
Right.
Absolutely.
100%.
Okay.
But
And equally, there are companies that will dictate to you. I mean, what was the guy? There was a guy not that long ago who did a review or something, and the company lost their shit because it wasn't a great review. And they pulled all sorts of shenanigans. So there are bad actors on both sides. But the vast majority of people that I know in this industry are honest, open. There is no contract. The manufacturers that I work with closely, they never tell me what to say or what to do. They never ask to see the review before it gets published. And I guess that is based on the fact they know that if I have a problem, I'll speak to them first.
Right.
Because I want to make sure that whatever problem I've got is that a thing? Is that how it's supposed to be? If that's how it's supposed to be, then that's what I'll report on. But if they come back to me and say, actually, that's a bug, because that happens right up until the last minute. So many products get released today with bugs in them. They'll know about the bugs.
But Robbie, you realize you're a small majority, right? You realize there are more shills than good actors.
I know. I think the balance is way in the other way.
Are you?
In my experience, I would say it's a good 90 to 95% of people that do what I do, whether it's online or in print, are absolutely 100% honest and are not shills in any way that word could be used. And I would say the same for most manufacturers, that they know. See, word of mouth marketing is essentially what this is. this is just so WOM started 20 odd years ago when social media was there. Marketing companies understood that it was so much more efficient and cheaper to use word of mouth marketing than put big elaborate advertising campaigns together that would air on TV or radio or at the cinema or in print. When you get somebody who's part of a community that is known and trusted for their knowledge as well as their honesty, give them the product, they will talk about it and get right to the specific audience that they need that product to be promoted to.
Okay, but Robbie, that sounds like your idea of it's the exact opposite of who's being honest and who's not. Is this just how you feel about this situation, or do you actually have statistical fact that one is heavier than the other as far as presenting the truth and not coming forward with certain things? Because a lot of people, in my opinion, when I watch certain things, I can tell like there's something funny here. Like, why aren't you even wearing an Arturia shirt or a Cherry Audio hat? Or, is it the eye of the beholder, or are you looking at some statistical fact that says these people are honest and these people are not?
I don't have any paperwork to back up the claims that I have made, other than my own personal experience
with those
those people who I meet face to face regularly.
Where do you meet these people at? Just so
at
we have
the shows.
context.
At the shows, so Super Booth, Synth Fest. Sometimes we go out and have dinner.
And these are private conversations, correct?
Yeah, this is just, but it's the community, and we all know each other, and we'll speak to each other, privately on offline, shall we say, but whatever. I've got a bunch of people in my phone, that I'll speak to, and I read their content, look at their content. I know I can sniff a genuine shill out. Because of how they write and what they say, or what they speak. So whilst I can't sort of produce documentation that says, we've vetted these people and they're 100% honest,
which you
I'm a
probably
human
never
being,
could.
and I consider myself to be a reasonably good judge of character, and I've never been proven wrong. And the thing is, we often sit around and we share these stories. Oh, I had these comments on my video, the day, blah blah blah. And we all go, we've had some of that, and it tends to be the same people a lot of the time that accuse us of all being in on this kind of conspiracy, that we are being paid off to to positively promote products even when they're not that great. It's bollocks. It's I don't know where it stems from, whether it's a jealousy that we get sent stuff and we're trusted by the the industry to talk about this honestly. If I wasn't trusted, I would get fuck all. I would get nothing.
Right.
I wouldn't have the relationships that I have with all of these companies, not just the marketing teams. I'm on first name terms with the owners, the founders of some of the biggest organizations in this music technology industry, because I forge those. I work hard at putting myself in front of these people. Sometimes they'll get in touch with me and say, I saw your review, I thought it was very honest, and thank you very much. And then we strike up sort of a friendship from there. But honestly, I can't document my evidence, but it's just from knowing the people and knowing the industry, the vast majority of us are just genuine, honest people who are passionate as all the people that call us shills are. We're as passionate as they are, but we've put some effort in to forging these relationships. And yes, it's bloody cool when a synthesizer company sends you a really nice synthesizer.
Oh,
of
yeah.
course,
You worked hard for it.
Giddy as a fucking schoolgirl.
Right.
Andrew Longhurst had a great comment in the chat. He says, if you can't give an honest review, it will show. And as a reviewer, your entire credibility rests on being perceived as a balanced and and honest. Robbie's take is always honest, open, and credible.
Okay. With that being said, though,
I got a question from the last part that you had.
Okay,
quick.
go ahead.
And there's also a question in the chat.
What do you say to the person that says, "Oh, I wanted to buy that Behringer Eskimo yada yada 2000, but because of your review, and you said it was shit, and now everybody says this thing is shit. Every channel that I go to, knowing damn well it's just your personal opinion." Well, obviously, people don't respect one's personal opinion. What do you say to the people that didn't buy anything? And I'm not saying directly at you, but because the reviews came back bad for them, they halted their purchase and blamed the writers for not getting their equipment they wanted.
I don't know how to answer that one, really.
Because these people pick you guys for a reason. It's not like you guys are people that don't know sense or how to operate one.
Yeah.
You know?
There's a responsibility as a person in my position. Loopop has the same responsibility. So does Starsky Carr. So does Mark Doty. So does Bo Beats, Cuckoo. All of these guys, they have a responsibility. Now, you may or may not like that individual's persona, character, or modus operandi. You might not like the way that Cuckoo does his videos with a mirror, which I think is just a super cool little idea.
It is. It's way cool.
But some people don't like that. Some people hate on bad gear. Florian gets a shit ton of stick, and Florian is actually kind of playing off of this whole thing. Instead of giving glowing reviews, he gives these allegedly bad reviews. But at the end of every one, he'll say, "Look, it wasn't for me, but you might like it." And at the end of the day, that's kind of what we all try to say. I will give an opinion on something. So again, I'm going to refer to this Polybrute here. My personal opinion, as somebody that's been in this game for a while now, is this is the greatest polyphonic analog synthesizer of the last 2 to 3 decades, bar none. That's my opinion, and I will write that down in my review, but I will try and explain why I think that. Equally, if I think something is average or not that great, I will do the same, but I will explain that that's my opinion based on my knowledge and my experience. I did a review of a piece of Roland gear some years ago and didn't like it. Didn't like it because it was one of these boutiques, so it's kind of a miniaturized synthesizer. I didn't like the fact that it got tiny little sliders. I didn't like the fact that it had a nasty buzz on the audio because of the USB. I didn't like the fact that it was 4-voice polyphonic when it really ought to have been 8-voice polyphonic. And I put all those things down. However, I know people who've got those synthesizers and love them, and I appreciate the fact that they love them because it does for them what it does for them. I don't think that people will or will not buy something purely because of my thoughts on it.
Well,
I
there's
think
some crazy lunatic people out there that do.
There'll be an odd idiot here or there,
But like Uncle Chrome said in the chat, he said the buyer has the final responsibility.
exactly.
And
Caveat
they do.
emptor, yeah.
Yeah, and Prometheus said it as well. Ultimately, it's down to the people to make their own decisions. Use Robbie and use Bo Beats and use Cuckoo.
Use us all.
Use
of
them
as a
all
We're all your
totality.
bitches.
as a
Use us.
guide,
As a
as a
totality.
guide, but not your final
decision.
tell-all.
Right.
Like we do that all the time with movies. Like we'll see a movie that has like shit reviews. We're like, okay, it's interesting. We're interested in it. We want to see it. The reviews say it sucks. We watch the movie
And we love it.
either way, and we
Most
end up
times
loving
we love
it.
it. Which is what I was gonna say is when I watch Cuckoo, Bo Beats, Lupa, like all of them, the longer you watch these people, the more you understand their style of music. And if you can watch them all, you get this consensus if something's for you or not. And you can see why they like certain things about this, why they don't like certain things. It just comes down to who you are as an artist and what that machine is going to do for you. But here's my my other question is.
Wait. So
Okay,
we're
go
still
ahead. I have it
on-
written down, so go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So still on this topic, Hans Vault has a question. He's curious. Have you ever written, has a synth ever been taken back because you've written a bad review?
No.
There we
No,
go.
never.
Perfect.
As I said before, I get sent stuff. Sometimes I get sent stuff, and there's a finite. You've got a month to do this. Sometimes they'll send it, and they don't even say whether they will or won't take it back, and then they'll phone up or email you and say, "Oh, have you done with that? Can we have it back? Because we need to send it off." Because they've only got so many of these units that they can ship around in various places to send to reviewers. And certainly when it comes to big expensive pieces of equipment, that number reduces. However, bear this in mind: if a manufacturer sends you an item that's the ticket price is $1,000, let's say, it doesn't cost them $1,000 to send it to you, because that item actually costs probably $300 for the distributor to buy from the manufacturer. And then they add their markup, and then they sell it to the retailer, who adds their markup, and that's how it gets to $1,000.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm pulling these. By the way, I'm just pulling these figures out of my arsehole.
Yeah.
Right.
But this is, you're looking at huge amounts of markup. So if there's anybody that's watching that thinks that we're getting hugely expensive pieces of equipment, only in the eyes of the retailer, because this, I know how much this costs, and I know how much Arturia sell this to the distributors. I'm not obliged to tell you that because I've signed an NDA. That's just a business thing. That happens everywhere. But I know for a fact that this $4,000 synthesizer doesn't cost $4,000 for them to sell. And so when you then take that price, so we go back to my $1,000, $300 analogy, $300 to send to someone who can reach maybe only 200, 500 people, but they are 200 to 500 people who are the exact audience. That's $300 well spent. So you've got to think of it. It's a value exchange.
Right.
That's what it is. It's a value exchange.
Okay. So, and here's another, and it's not an issue, but for me, Robbie, we know you. We're friends, and so don't take any offense to how I ask these questions. I'm trying to play the latter half. I'm trying to be the people that would attack you.
Sure.
And I'm trying to be the person that's going to ask you the rough questions. Okay.
We're trying to be the
But we know who you are, so don't. It's not personal.
He's trying to be the people who drink the haterade.
Right.
And I promise you,
Extra
I'll
bitter
give you
strength.
honest
Yeah.
answers.
Yeah.
Okay. Why hasn't there been any? Have you ever written an article based on shills, based on the people who you interact and go, okay, right, this fucker is definitely a shill, and like, have you wrote an article about it? Does the community in which you thrive in stand up against it? Is there a cold shoulder?
We
when
call
you
them out.
Okay. Explain that, and have you written an article about them?
So, like I said, I don't know anybody. I don't think I'm on the spot here. I'm trying to think if I do know anybody. That
You don't
I
have
could-
to name anybody. That's
No,
not
no,
the-
but I'm just thinking if I do,
Okay.
and I genuinely don't think I know anybody in our
Circle.
community.
Okay.
Yeah, of writers, reviewers, and I'm talking everybody from the lowest of the low, like me, who just do the writing and the reviewing, to the people that run the websites and the magazines that I write for. The ones that I know and I've met with and interacted with, they are passionate musicians. They're passionate about their subject matter. They are passionate about being trusted and being accurate and being seen as standard bearers. So I work freelance for Sound on Sound. I mostly do podcasts. I have written in the magazine as well, but I mostly do podcasts. The guys at Sound on Sound, the founders of Sound on Sound, they founded that magazine in 1985 after working for another magazine for a few years before that. They've been in this industry longer than some of the people that are watching the show have probably been born. They, to this day, want to still be the flag bearers, the standard bearers of honest, accurate, trustworthy content, whether it's in print, or whether it's in video or in audio. They want, and that's why Sound on Sound, that was founded 40 years ago, is still the industry standard for our business. It's found in every studio. It's found in most musicians, front rooms or studios. It's still going, and all these other magazines are falling by the wayside or reverting solely to an online presence. Sound on Sound exists as it does because it is, and Tape-Op as well. Thank you, Uncle Chrome. Tape-Op is another one that's been around, and they stand on their principles. And so I don't really, I struggle sometimes to think of anyone that I know of. I'm sure there are people out there, but they probably don't have a huge audience, because I think I give credit to our community. They know the people that they can trust.
Because they ultimately are giving you a bad name too,
Yeah.
So
and Andrew made another great point, and this doesn't just go with like music or just music software. I think this travels across a lot of different companies, because I know here in the States we have Hobby Lobby and Chick-fil-A, and these two companies have lost a lot of consumers because of the owner's stance and beliefs. He says there have been several instances of people not buying gear or software because of the moral stance of the owners of some companies.
Yeah.
That's very true.
right.
And that also provides a quandary for us in my industry. Do I review, those people's items? And when you have to kind of drill down to it, and you have to make an editorial decision that is generally made by you and your cohorts. But yeah, you might turn around and say, no, we're not going to touch that because we don't, but most of the time, we might as well bring up the word Behringer. So Behringer, I mean, I know stuff about Behringer that I'm not at liberty to share publicly anywhere, but it would put many more people off buying Behringer, just, the sheer fact of knowing that some of their business practices. However, does that mean that I shouldn't talk about Behringer products? Or, I've just bought one purely because they don't do what other companies do. They don't send products out. Well, they did for a short while, but they stopped. Or certainly in the synthesizer community, this is quite interesting. A colleague of mine who writes about guitars recently received a box full from Behringer of all the Behringer pedals that they're going to be introducing next week at NAMM. So it makes me wonder, actually, why don't Behringer send out synthesizers and drum machines to us in the press, yet they do send guitar pedals out to those in the press? And is it because the synthesizer community is being treated differently by them for whatever reason? I don't know. I don't hang around in the guitar community that much, so I don't know if I think guitarists don't necessarily care about the fact that you can buy a Fender Stratocaster or a gazillion copies of a Fender Stratocaster made by a gazillion different companies, and nobody really cares. Same, but you create a synthesizer that is based on a classic synthesizer of the past, and you get your nuts chewed off.
So does Behringer produce? Okay, so Behringer's internal workings.
And stay with that, because I got a question about Behringer.
Let's go with Behringer's internal workings. One, when my brother and I were young into the music world, he bought a Behringer cabinet for his bass, had it for years, loved everything Behringer, but we didn't know anything about Behringer other than it stood the test of time for 5 years on the stage getting beat the hell out of, okay? So without knowledge and experience in certain things, it goes a long way, because sometimes proof is in the pudding. But what about Behringer's behind the scenes give you a bad taste in your mouth, or you think would give a bad taste in people's mouth? Behringer
has a reputation that goes way beyond the world of synthesizers, because in the 80s they were producing guitar pedals that were literally copies of the Boss, the Roland Boss guitar pedals, and people tried, companies tried to take legal action, and occasionally Behringer lost, but most of the time Behringer won, because you got to hand it to them, they're very clever in the way that they skirt around the edges of legality. Mm-hmm. Without actually crossing the lines too often. When they do cross the lines, they occasionally get a slap on the wrist, but they'll carry on. But there's also this thing. I don't know. Is it snobbery? Maybe that's not the right word. I've got nothing against manufacturers, whether they're software or hardware developers, creating I don't want to say the word clone, because clone implies it's 100% identical, but a replica, shall we say. Let's call them a replica. So creating a replica of a synthesizer that you can't buy anymore, that's been dead for 20 years. Mm-hmm. So, the CS80, count the CS80. Do you see Yamaha spitting their pacifier out when somebody releases a CS80 software clone or a hardware clone? They didn't get upset. Well, if they did get upset, they weren't public about it, and these manufacturers continue to do what they do. So why are Behringer treated any differently? So one could say, oh, look at Arturia, they're producing software instruments, they're producing CS80s, Jupiter 8s, Junos, this, that, and the other. They're able to do it. I can't speak too authoritatively about Behringer, because they operate in a very unique way and don't divulge, and certainly don't send representatives out to kind of explain why they're doing what they're doing and how they do it. However, I've had conversations with other developers who do these replicas, and they say, look, we approach the people, so if the company's still going, we approach them and we say, we'd like to do this, would you have a problem? Most of the time they'll say no, because it saves them doing it and they have no interest in doing it. So if somebody else is happy to do it, they're okay. Mm-hmm. Some of them will even give them the rights to use their names within that product. So you look at Korg.
Wait, Robbie, stop there, because I think you just passed my question. Oh,
okay.
And this is going to be blunt. Does Behringer know what the word is about Behringer? Meaning, does Behringer know what everybody thinks about them?
Absolutely, 100%, and they use it to their advantage. If you look at that, they don't do marketing the way that everyone else does marketing. They do everything through social media. They will post comments on their social media channels, and sometimes it comes over as a bit, oh, we're the victim, and we're just we're the Robin Hood of the music technology industry. We just want to bring you the best stuff at the cheapest prices. Bottom line is, Behringer is a business just like any other business in this industry. They are there to make money, and they're there to make money so that they can pay all the bills, pay themselves, and continue to do that. And that's all. So they're in that way, they're no different from anyone else. But they've just decided that it's more effective, and it's kind of indicative of the society we've found ourselves kind of growing up in the last 20 years. They absolutely thrive on being a pariah within this industry. Yeah. They absolutely thrive on it.
So you're saying Behringer is now designed to be lazy and get the work off of other people's hard works, ride the backs, and then push out a product that can come in at a lower price that looks just like their product.
But then it can also be looked at as they're bringing the product in cheaper for consumers who don't have the budget as others.
Okay, but answer that first one first. Is that their goal, is to be lazy and ride other people's back?
I don't think they're lazy. I don't think Uli Behringer is lazy. Uli Behringer, I've never met the guy, but I've spoken with people who have, and not just hi, hello in a restaurant or a bar somewhere. They've actually had conversations and stuff with him. He's a clever guy. He might not be the nicest person in the world. He's a very driven individual, as many kind of successful businessmen. He's got his empire, shall we say, is big. What Behringer do is, and look, every other manufacturer at some point has produced a product that is inspired by something from the past.
Correct.
It's how all things work. Motor cars, chicken dinners. Somebody will produce a chicken dinner and they think, oh, we can do something like that, and they kind of take inspiration from it. He's doing that, but he's doing it in a very blatant way, and he's doing it in a way that could be a bit more respectful. So, for example, he's produced, his company produced a number of instruments that are inspired by, or knockoffs, or replicas, or clones of instruments that were made and are no longer made by ARP, who are one of the classic kind of names of our industry. There's nothing legally that really anyone could do about that, or certainly it would take a long time and a lot of money to do that. But all Uli has to do, all Behringer as a company have to do, is say, look, we've produced these instruments. We're going to take some of the money we make from that and pump it into something that's connected with ARP, such as the ARP Foundation.
Right. Give and take.
Yeah, and he's we've used this as an inspiration for this, and we want to give a little bit back. Now he does. Let's give it credit where credit's due. He has created a charity foundation, or he contributes. The company contributes to charity foundations that put instruments in front of children in developing countries. Totally admirable. And if Ben Jordan called him out on it to see if it was actually happening, and you can watch the videos. There's a before and an after video that shows that Behringer did follow through with that. Now, whether they followed through with it because they knew they'd got Ben Jordan on their case, and he is like a dog with a bone when he's going after something. I don't know, but I don't think lazy is the right word. I think clever, but ethically questionable.
So, could the statement be made then, Behringer is putting out products for those who don't have thousands to spend and experience the synth world in the same context?
You can spin it both ways. Okay. And you can say that. You can absolutely, if Behringer come out and say, we all we want to do, deep down in our hearts, we are 100% genuine that all we want to do is make instruments at a certain price point that enables so many more people get into that. And that's admirable, because we should all, anyone in this business should be doing that. But at the same time, you could argue that the Behringer model is factory in China, which is essentially a city in its own right, because everyone that works there lives there, and it's basically Behringer City. So it's should we say, I don't want to say cheap labor because I don't know how much they get paid, but let's just say I think we can best speculate that it's affordable labor for him. If he was to build those things in the USA or in the EU, he would be paying a lot more money, and therefore you would have to say, could he sell them as cheap if he wasn't making them in his own factory in his own city in China, where he gets probably lots of breaks from the administration there. So he's been very clever about what he does, but also at the same time, I've been privy to some information over the years that says that there is a slightly darker side to it, but I'd love somebody to do a proper kind of expose and go over there, and I'd love him to actually open his doors and say, come and look at what we do. This is how we do it. This is how I can make a Lindrum clone for $400, but there's somebody else is making one and it's $4,500. This is how I do it. Be open about it. But
yeah, but if he's open about it, then he's letting out his dirty little secrets, right?
Exactly. Right.
So you can't really be mad at him or the company or the way he runs his company, because he's clever, right?
Yeah. Right. And that's an interesting point, Daryl.
Yeah.
He's only successful because people buy the stuff.
Buy it. Yeah.
Right.
And you have a choice as a consumer whether to open your wallet or not.
Exactly. Jeff Hopkins made an interesting comment in the chat and said he's making product Behringer is putting out products to make money. I followed up with, well, isn't all the companies who put out products doing it to make money?
Mm-hmm.
I just want to address a point, sorry, very quickly before it spins past. Wagyu just made a comment about Uli apparently did open his doors up. Yes, he did invite people over, and I know people who were there, but it wasn't when
Was it ever aired?
They weren't taken around the factories. They were taken to a rather lavish dinner, I think, and they were met by people from the, shall we say, security industry, and it was all very, very controlled. So.
So he wasn't truly open.
I wouldn't say, I wouldn't say that. Yeah, he was open.
He was openly controlled.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how?
I'm gonna open this shit, but it's gonna be controlled.
Right.
Goddamn it! I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's like Willy Wonka, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I know we don't have a lot of factual stuff here when it comes to Behringer, so I'm going to ask this very vaguely. How is Behringer innovative? Have they created something
Cutting edge.
that somebody else wants to replicate?
At the moment, they've not created anything that is 100% completely their own design from the ground up. One might say that the DeepMind synthesizer was close to that, but it was very much based on. It certainly didn't look like the thing that it was being based on. It had some similarities and stuff, but it wasn't 100% original. You know,
But have they ever, Robbie? Have they ever created something that was cutting edge?
To my knowledge, no. But I'm not saying that that's a definitive. I think. I mean, you know, there was the story. Not to say the story. The fact that they copied some designs for some mixers. Can't remember which one.
Oh,
now.
the Neutron. People are in the chat saying the Neutron.
The Neutron, yeah, but the Neutron is very similar to other things, particularly Moog modules. They're not 100%. They're more than you know, say the LM drum or the 2600 or whatever. They're much more original, but there's crossovers. But no,
You know
I
what they
don't
would
think
be
they've done
innovated in, and you have to give credit where credit is due. They're innovative in the fact that they're allowing the individual who can't afford a $4,000 piece of machinery to go with something that mimics that piece of machinery, but for cheaper.
And you can still have fun doing it. Like I have no issues
And
with
create your
Right.
passion.
Right, I have no
problem with
issues.
I think
I have no
people have-
issues with Behringer.
I think people have the issue. The issue is probably not the product, but it's probably how Behringer runs its practice or runs its company. I think people have this notion about Behringer, and like Meryl said, they make things affordable. They don't want to tell you how to do it because it's competition. And he could very well be sleazy. He could very well be having a front for the schools of musical arts just to pay his taxes so he doesn't get penalized heavily and say, oh, I'm a nice guy. I think most people just have a problem on how Behringer conducts themselves in
He's
the
not
synth world.
tactful, is what people are saying.
Yeah.
he has a style. I think he may have modeled his style on other people's styles, and it's an amalgam of some other people that have inspired
He's
him.
like Amazon versus Temu.
But he's also he is a musician. He's a very, very good musician. He's a great keyboard player, and the story that is told that, you know, he built his own synthesizer at a young age and this is all he's ever wanted to do. If that is as accurate as they claim it to be, then that's an admirable thing, and he's been very successful. But you can't escape the fact that he's been very successful by pushing the limits of what is legal to produce products that are incredibly popular at great prices, and they have empowered many people to delve into this world that at some point, you know, in the past was probably very financially impenetrable for them. So now you've got somebody to do that. But you know, Behringer aren't the first people to make clones of instruments. I mean, I was writing an article today about a product, and it's I have to be careful because I can't talk about it until Tuesday. But it's
Don't
a
talk about
time.
it if you don't have just be careful.
It kind of proves my point. So there was a time 30 odd years ago when the TB303, the Roland TB303, was what everybody wanted. However, most of them had been thrown away, and those that survived were trading at four-figure sums because they were that in demand. So there was a bunch of companies back in the day. Freebase was a company that brought out basically it was a 303 clone, but it was in a 1U rack mount unit. But it was to all intents and purposes them jumping on and saying, "Hey, look, we know you can't afford £1,500 for a 303, so here's one for $399, but it's in a box that fits in your rack." And nobody batted an eyelid back then. Everyone was just like, "Wow, thank you." Nobody batted an eyelid. But Behringer kind of made their own bed by what they, because they've been doing this thing for many years before they even got into synthesizers. They kind of fostered that opinion of themselves as, sort of, this kind of Robin Hood. We are, we're going to, I mean, actually, I took delivery of the LM drum machine. I bought it myself with my own money because I was really interested in what it was like. On the inside, this is what's on the inside of every box.
There's a musician in every human being. Our purpose is to empower those who have not and cannot. Together, we are the music tribe.
And it's signed.
That's
now on the surface.
Like that.
That's admirable. It's pleasant. But there are other people that would say, "No, you're just pulling that one again." So look, everything I've said about Behringer is my personal opinion, based on the experiences that I've had. And I just want to say that if I've said anything out of line, Mr. Behringer, this is all allegedly. This is all just my opinion. So don't sue me.
Scott Sounds made a great point. Okay, so we all know Behringer makes products very similar, sometimes identical to other products that cost way more, but for cheaper. So he said, products sound great. How long they will last is questionable thing. And that's true. So are you purchasing now twice because the product has now failed and should have you then possibly maybe saved up to go for more of a reliable product
source
that you know has the backing behind it?
Right.
And that goes back to I had the thought. In California, there's a burger chain named In-N-Out, and the owners of this chain, they're all highly conservative. Some would say far right. And do you know how many Democrats who disagree with this chain still go out and buy an In-N-Out burger? It's at some point you have to let people's beliefs. If a product, I guess the whole thing is, if a product is good, you're still going to buy it, whether that the owner of it is bullshit or not. If it's a good product, you're going to buy it. It then becomes a moral standpoint if you don't want to buy it.
Right.
Some years ago, I say in the last 10, I can't remember when this happened, but we had the Conservative Party were running the country badly, but they were running the country and they had changed their leader, and so therefore she became our Prime Minister, and it was a lady called Theresa May, and she is a long-term Conservative MP. She was Home Secretary, and she eventually became Prime Minister. And Kate Bush was being interviewed not long after Theresa May had taken over the Conservative Party and become the Prime Minister. And it was one of those really rare Kate Bush interviews because she doesn't give them that often. And the interviewer asked her a question, and I can't remember exactly what the question was, but it was about, it was essentially, what do you think of, the situation? What do you think about Theresa May taking, being Prime Minister? And Kate said this. She made a comment that said, "Look, I admire Theresa May because that's a heck of a job to take on, and certainly as a woman, it's a massively male-dominated arena." And she said, I think she's. She didn't say, she didn't come out and say, "I'm a flag-waving conservative and I approve of everything that the Conservative Party does." She just said, that she had been impressed by the way that Theresa May had taken on the role and was doing the role, and that was that. As soon as that interview went out, the left-wing media and everyone just exploded, and all of a sudden Kate Bush was this social pariah for having expressed her support for a female Tory leader. And nobody really listened to the whole interview and the context. That's obviously what was missing. And the same thing happened back in the 80s with Phil Collins and Gary Newman and other musicians, who made similar comments about, right-wing leaders of our country, most notably Margaret Thatcher. And they were outcasts for a while. And somebody I know, a very good friend of mine who's incredibly left-wing, I made a comment on social media. I said, look, bottom line is, if she admires Theresa May for doing a good job, what do I care? Mm-hmm. I love Kate Bush as an artist, as a musician. I love her music. It means a lot to me. It's soundtracked significant parts of my life, and she will always be one of my favourite artists ever. If she votes Tory, she votes Tory. Right. Whatever. But he turned around and said, "Oh, you can't disassociate someone's political beliefs from their art." And I'm like, absolutely can. Mm-hmm.
100% you can.
100%. Of course you can. So,
if so wild.
It's whether you think Uli Berenger is a lovely man or not a very nice man, whether you think that what his company does is ethical or not, mm-hmm. if you are desperate to make music with some of these tools and you have a few options and the only one that is viable to you is the Berenger product, mm-hmm. then I certainly won't hold it against you for buying that product, because if he didn't make it, somebody else would.
And mm-hmm. And I had an argument with someone over YouTube about this. They were going on and on about Trump and Biden.
Argument over YouTube?
On YouTube, I'm sorry.
No, on you. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, what?
But they were going on and on about the politics of Trump and Biden and Kamala Harris. And I go, you know what? Are you an American? It's a plain fucking question, Robbie. Are you an American? Yes or no?
Me? No.
And no. This is what I'm asking.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Right. And the person, I don't know if it's a he or she, says, yes, I'm American. Well, if you are an American and you believe in the American life and the values of America, you will support whoever's running the country, whether you like them or not, because there's not going to be a person up there that's always going to
fit everyone's ideals,
right? And satisfy your needs. And at the end of the day, either you're against America or you're for America. Not everything is perfect about America, but are you American or not?
So I would say, and let's just imagine for a moment I am American. Mm-hmm. I would say that, yes, I am, I'm an American. I feel passionately about this country and everything it stands for and its history. But if somebody is in the top job that I don't like, mm-hmm. and let's just say this, if Mr. Trump, who will tomorrow be President Trump again, mm-hmm. If he's there, I'm not going to do anything that's going to damage this country, but I will sure as hell put as much pressure on him and let him know how angry and disappointed I am in what he stands for.
Mm-hmm. My point exactly.
To push, to either stop him from doing things that I believe are against this country's best interest.
Mm-hmm. And it's not to say you're going to leave the country or go out and shoot someone and say, I'm no longer American.
And it's been that way for years, though. Right. Ever since George Washington and all parties, it's been this way for years. Mm-hmm. You win and you lose. But mm-hmm. at the end of the day, you still respect the position. No one is saying you have to like the person in the position, mm-hmm. but respect it. And then, like Robbie says, do your part to make it known that you are not happy with the decision that was made. Right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like you were saying, you still have to support your country.
I mean, but that's what everything we look at nowadays.
Yeah. On a much, much more important note, mm-hmm. The Crazy Rabbit said something in the comment and said, Del Taco are the Behringer fast food.
Yes, they
Oh.
are.
Trying
Yes,
to
they
copy Taco Bell.
Taco
Yes, they
Bell.
are. And so is Burger King to McDonald's.
Well,
It happens.
it does, but here's a bigger question.
Yeah.
Because I'm a bass player. I know nothing about the synth world other than what you guys tell me.
Right.
Okay. And this is referring to pedals. Okay. I've always known pedals as a guitar and now barely a bass thing. When the music industry manufacturers make these pedals, I'm sure guitars were the first thing in mind, right? Does any pedal manufacturer take in mind the person using the synthesizer? I'm talking like Roland, Strymon, The Mood.
I think Strymon do.
Strymon does more,
Yeah.
I think. Strymon and Chase Bliss. would
Yeah,
you say?
and even Zoom to a certain degree. I think they all think about it. I mean, yes, predominantly pedals are a thing of the guitar world, but I think that most pedal manufacturers will have players in mind, and certainly a few of them are kind of pushed at that market.
Right.
So
Yeah, because Strymon does have a switch on the back of their products for instrument or
or
So,
line. Yeah.
so,
line.
so these pedal manufacturers now are they? Do you think they're taking account that maybe a big part of our revenue is coming from synth players?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I would think that they do. 'Cause they'd be foolish not to.
You have any other
Yes.
questions?
Yeah. Do you have?
I was going to change the subject, but if you're going to
'cause-
keep it,
Yeah. Well,
music,
no. It's well, this one is about something that we should have talked on when we were on the Shield subject of writing and everything. So let me just get this out of the way.
Okay.
Sure.
Because we're coming up on the final hour here. This morning, my brother in Maryland and I woke up to some disturbing things for a person who did not deserve this comment on his channel and about him. And the part of the reason why I brought up the Shield thing, and there's just a lot of things going on right now in the YouTube world where a lot of things aren't fact driven. A lot of things are pure belief. A lot of things are blatant. You can see them with your own eyes if you can read through the subliminal messages with some companies. And James Dyson, I wonder if you could pull up what was exactly
Did somebody have a pop at James?
said to him.
Oh yeah,
But
said to him, I don't know what.
or
it was on his feed.
It's on his post.
No, I know his response, but I don't know what
Right.
was said to
So,
him.
We don't know what was said, but could you read the response?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to take any word out of context, and I want it straight from the horse's mouth.
Yeah. He wrote, "Hello, just a quick message. I buy all of my hardware and I am not paid to demo promote gear. If I say I like something or express how cool a feature is, it's my own words, not what I've been told to say. To those telling me different, please get your facts straight before sending hate, ignorant messages. Thank you. To everyone else, thank you so much for your continued support and see you on the next stream video."
Okay, so I often joke a lot with James, and if James was in the comment right now, he knows 100% I like to joke with him, but that's far as it goes, and James knows this.
And I hope everybody on our stream knows that we joke
we joke
a
a lot. And so I would make comments like, "Oh, James, you got your head up Cherry Audio's ass, and you're wearing this shirt, you're wearing that shirt," and James and I would have a good laugh. But we both know,
And even after,
after.
the stream,
it's the reason why that man is in our Discord.
yeah.
And James knows we're fucking around with each other.
oh, he just joined.
Oh, he just-
you
okay.
haven't done anything. We're
So-
just commenting on what you
That
wrote
we
on
know
your
of.
community.
Right. So if you follow James as long as I have, and you begin to have an understanding for this man,
For years.
for
right?
years,
Yeah.
okay, never have you seen James' background change. Never have you seen a production upgrade. Never have you seen him pick up a fucking microphone and say anything to you. And a big part of me is jealous that James is doing this because he is putting out content with no context. And it's 50-50. It can hurt him, or it can, in my mind, be one of the best things you've ever seen. Here's how it hurts him. Because he's not boisterous, people will go to his channel and just assume he is working for said people. He's taking in said money to review all of these products. How on earth can this man afford all of these products and demo them all or whatever? Play them. I think most of the time, and I'm pretty sure I'm right about this, James is buying fucking instruments and he's having a blast on YouTube.
He said on his community tab he buys them all.
Yeah, he buys all his shit.
No more, no less. If you look further into it, you are searching for something. And for that man to get anything remotely other than praises is fucking wild to me. For him to get that negative, publicity.
Well, and to be a shield, period, for any like Cherry Audio, they're going to want you to say something, not be quiet and just twiddle diddle on their machine.
Nine times out of 10, James, when he does his streams, he's playing instruments, whether they're hardware or software, that he's written sounds for, and he sells those sounds.
Yeah,
He's a legitimate sound designer that sells sounds for other products and also makes sounds that go into the factory presets. If he's not sitting there playing his sounds so that we can all hear them, how the hell is he going to do any kind of business?
Thank you.
Exactly.
For Christ, honestly, people.
But this is how I think of it. Like with Robbie with Post-it Network and James with the issue that happened to him yesterday, and the other gentleman, I forget his name, who decided to quit YouTube. Right?
Oh, Scott.
Yeah, Scott.
These people, to me, have made it and have made it big. Why? Because you get all these bunch of haters at you, coming at you, and it all stems from jealousy.
Well, Kent was right. If you stick your head up a little bit, expect it to get slapped.
You have to expect it, and
it all stems from jealousy.
To go back to Scott McLean's situation, where he made this video about something that he got wrong. He admitted he got it wrong, but he failed to do due diligence. He failed. He saw a situation. He thought he knew what it was. He made a video about it and put it out there. He was very quickly shown that he'd not got all of his facts straight, and he'd kind of missed a few things. Even the person that he was kind of fighting on the behalf of in this video, Florian, said, "Look, now that wasn't quite how it went down. It was this," and what Scott should have done was, right, just take that video down and very quickly just make a very short video saying, hey guys, I know you might be coming to my channel to watch this video that people have been talking about, but look, I got it wrong. And I hold my hands up, I got it wrong, I apologize. The video's been taken down because it's factually incorrect, and maybe I'll make another one where I get my facts right about it, and I'll do a little bit more research. And then everybody, there might have been a kerfuffle for a day or two, but then it would have all just gone away. And he wouldn't have got the abuse that he got, and he wouldn't have got the unfortunate things, which I absolutely do not condone. And he would have just, hopefully, I would like to think that it would just gone quiet for after a couple of days, and he could carry on doing what he was doing very well. And he's got a lot of subscribers, a lot of people like what he does. He could have been carrying on with no stress and drama. So he made a mistake. And we all make mistakes, and we should never criticize people for making mistakes. What we need to do is understand how we respond to those mistakes. So if I make a mistake, my boss will say to me, look, it's fine. Everyone makes mistakes. How are you going to deal with it? How are you going to deal with the consequences? That's what you're judged on. And I think Scott made a slight misjudgment of what the situation was, and he dealt with it in a way that I would probably not have done. But I can understand why he did, because when you're getting attacked, you can just go and you lose all sort of sense of reason. So
I do it all the time.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I was going to ask you, Robbie, what have you made a mistake, and have you ever going back to you? Have you ever had to redact something that you did not need to put out there?
yes, once. Well, it's not really the same sort of thing. So I'm not even sure I should. I made public something that shouldn't have been made public. But I didn't know that it shouldn't have been made public. And when I was told that it shouldn't have been made public, I was up until 3-4 o'clock in the morning trying to put the genie back in the bottle. But, you know, the internet's the internet.
Yeah,
I basically leaked a video that had been leaked elsewhere but hadn't got the traction. But because I have a platform on Gear News where, you know, we have huge numbers of people watch it, I put it on there. And, of course, it just went... And I get a phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning from the company's representative in LA saying that should not have been. No, get it off. And I'm like, but it was already out there. And they said, yeah, we know, but get it off. And so I did my damnedest, and we managed to sort of contain the situation. But yeah, I mean, I don't think. I mean, sometimes on the show, I'll say something, and you have to bear in mind that I'm trying to run the show, and I might say something that's incorrect. And if somebody pulls me up in the chat and says, "Actually, no, Rob, it wasn't that; it was this," I will admit to it instantly. But I don't think I've. Honestly, genuinely, I can't think if I've done anything that was on the same magnitude as what Scott did.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
And I'd like to think that I would react in the way that I've just described that he should have reacted, but I can understand why he did react the way he did, and I could understand that I might do the same.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Robbie being a writer, I suspect that he fact checks.
Oh,
well,
very
this is
well
the thing.
before.
You have to when you're writing, you have to think about it. I mean, I got. It was when Roger Lynn last week or the week before made some comments about the Behringer version of his old drum machine and the GeForce version of that. My editor said to me, "Do you want to write that up as a little news story? Because it's an interesting thing. Roger Lynn has spoken out about these things." And I remember I said to him, "I don't want to write about it right now because I need to speak to a few people to get their sides of the story and to understand what they think about this, because I'm going to be referring to them." So I delayed that until the following day, deliberately to make sure that I had got as much factual information as I possibly could. And then and only then, if my editor says it's fine, publish it, I will argue if I don't believe that it should be published. And my editor trusts me enough to generally, I mean, we've never had this discussion, but I think if I went up to him and he said, "You publish your story, you publish it now," and I'm saying no because I haven't substantiated these facts, I haven't got this, I haven't got that, I know he would sort of have my back.
Yeah.
So.
James made a statement, a comment in the chat, and said, "My mantra is we all share something, and everyone is as valuable as one another. My sound design is my passion, and I like to share a bit for sales or not, hence why I give so much away."
Yeah. So,
James has been just so good to us at Pro Synth Network.
You know what?
Yeah,
And I think that's
yeah.
what pisses me off the most is right now I'm going to be James' voice. And if you all think this man is doing something that's not right with your fucking mentality, you can go fuck yourself. If you don't like what he's doing on his channel, properly fuck off and leave the fucking man alone. Don't come here with the bullshit. Don't come here judging. Don't come here with half-ass facts and just saying things you have no fucking idea if it's true or not.
Because as my mum used to say, if you haven't got anything nice to say, just don't
say it at all.
It.
Because it gets people in trouble.
Yeah.
It gets you in trouble. You dig this hole for yourself, and then you have to dig this hole either further, or you're going to start wanting to climb your way out and go.
Because then pride comes into it, doesn't it? Oh,
Right.
I'm not going to back down now, because if I back down, it looks like I'm weak. No, back down, because it'll prove that you're actually fucking strong. Because
Right.
if you've got the courage to say, look, hands up, I was a dick. I was wrong. I was rude. I was whatever. If you can do that, and I've learned that over the years, that if you fuck up, admit to it, deal with it, tell that person how you're going to unfuck up,
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
and that's braver than doubling down and saying, no, I'm right.
Yes, but you
Exactly.
have to be aware too. You have people that follow your every word.
Yeah,
You've built a community that's going to follow your every word.
Monger says symptoms of rage coming out again.
Well,
Well, I
Okay,
don't want
change-
people to follow my every word. By the way,
Right.
I don't want them to follow
Right.
my every word.
You
I want them
don't,
to
but-
listen to me as one part of a wider conversation.
as a
right,
guy.
but
Yeah.
Robbie,
Yeah.
whether you want that or not,
Some people do.
people
Some people
people
do.
follow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then some people say, oh, Robbie's a crock of shit. And some people say, no, Robbie knows, everything. Like,
Well, they
so
call
you
it-
have
and
a-
But I don't.
but you
they call
have
it-
those people, what we're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
And,
You
and,
have
in-
those people.
and in YouTube world, they call you an influencer for a reason.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so changing the subject here a little bit. I had this question, and then Crazy Rabbit actually had the same question in the
Okay.
chat.
Okay.
So besides writing and music, is there any other passion? Would you have done something besides those two things?
So music literally is everything to me, whether it's this or whether it's just listening to music. I have a massive music collection, vinyl, CDs, cassettes, whatever. I love listening to music. Informs my entire life, and I think that whatever I ended up doing, it would have been part of it. If I always wanted it to be the whole thing, but I'm 55 this year. It's not been that. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon either. So I'm just kind of happy with the balance that I've got at the moment. If this year my company blows up and goes huge, and I get loads of contracts, and I can give up the day job and make this my thing, I'd be very happy. Although I had an opportunity to do that some years ago. I was laid off from a job, and you must have heard of the company GeForce Software. They make these amazing plugins, and I know the founders, the owners of that business very well. They've been friends for many years, and I phoned them up when I got told that I was being laid off, and I said, look, I think instead of going to another job, I think I might want to go and work for myself, and you guys do that. Can you give me some advice? And the pair of them individually, but they both spent 2 hours or so on the phone with me separately, talking me through everything, giving me all the advice. But one thing stuck out, and it was Dave Spears that said this to me. He said, look, Rob, he said, you know me, I've been in the music industry for as long as I can remember. I've done some amazing things, but it's very dangerous to make your hobby your job, because all of a sudden you don't like your hobby anymore. And that is so true. But you can find a balance, and that's what I've managed to try, and I will continue to try and do, is to find a balance where I can still get excited and be passionate about this stuff, but also put in the hard work, working on a Sunday like I was, up until Jamie came on at 6:00 tonight, and I wanted to watch his little stream before this. I was writing on a Sunday evening, and I do that frequently when I could be, sipping a glass of wine, which I will be doing very soon with my wife, watching a movie or whatever. So you've got, there are times when you think, oh God, I've got to write this. I mean, I'm not looking forward to this coming week, because it's NAMM, and there's going to be a ton of news, and we're just going to be bombarded.
Busy.
We've got to write this all up, and it's going to take up a lot of my time, and I've got my day job that I can't neglect. So it's going to be a tough week, but the rewards are many, not just financial, but the rewards are many. And so would I have done anything else? I'd because I was so into my drama studies at school, I would have loved to have been an actor. I think I could possibly have been a lovey on the stage or on the screen. I still have a big passion for movies, and that's a thing, again, something I do outside of this is, I have a big movie collection. I worked in the home video industry and the gaming industry for a short while, and I would have done that. I never had any aspirations to be anything else, really. I don't think.
So no hobbies outside of
well, I'd say
music?
apart from all my hobbies are kind of music
related,
or movie related, technology related. Home cinema. I've got a home cinema set up. I've had one since the 90s. People would come around my house and see all of these speakers and go, "What the hell's going on?" And then I'd put something on. And this was back in the days of video. You put Star Wars on, or you'd play the scene in the third Indiana Jones film where the Messerschmitt is circling around the beach and shooting at them, and they'd sit there and you'd hear all this stuff coming around, and it was so I was into widescreen TVs and home cinema for most people, so that was another kind of passion. And I do like my cars, but I'm not a mechanic. I'm a driver. I'm not a fixer.
Would you have been a pizza maker? No, I'm just kidding. Okay. wait. James Dyson has a question. He said, if you could have only one synthesizer for life, which one would it be?
I love these questions.
Price, not an issue.
Price, not
Do you know,
an issue.
for a while, I don't know if anybody, I think you guys were watching Jamie's stream before this one.
Right.
And he was demonstrating the Alesis Fusion.
Yes.
And me and the Fusion have, we had a relationship. I worked freelance for Alesis and for Hollow Sun during the time of the Fusion. And our main aim was to keep that machine going and alive, because we foolishly believed in it. And at one point, I said, I could sell everything, because the Fusion does it all. It's got a virtual analog synthesizer, it's got sampling, it's got FM, it's got physical modeling, it's got 8-track digital audio recording as well as MIDI tracks. That could be my one thing, but gladly, fortunately I didn't make that. What if I had one thing? Money, no object. I don't know, because I sit here and play something like the Polybrute, which is it's a analog polyphonic synthesizer. But you can't write songs on it. And I'm not a great player. That's why I use technology to help me make music. So I would have to choose something that would enable me to do that. Looking around here, I don't know. It's such...
The fact that you haven't said the Polybrute,
the
cream dream,
Yeah.
is shocking to me, because I just said earlier today that this thing is the epitome of synthesizers.
Well, it's for me, it's the greatest analog synthesizer for the last 2 or 3 decades.
Okay, so why is that not the first thing out of your mouth? I'm curious.
Because that's not the only thing that I play. I play digital synthesizers, and I play samplers, and FM synthesizers, and each of them have their own traits and abilities, and I love them for those things.
Right, Robbie, but this is the question why James posed the question. Okay, James knows this. He's a smart man.
That should be you should have this answer real quick here.
This is why he wants to know this.
I would say, look, because of my association with it, and if I could have a fully operational Fairlight CMI, I would probably be happy with that, because I know that instrument, it's big, it's unwieldy, but I can do amazing things on it because of the technology, and it would please me on so many levels. So if somebody was to come up with a version of that was rock solid and didn't break every 5 minutes and didn't cost a fortune, that would be, Manny's just said in the chat, I really want a Yamaha VP1. But I would probably get bored of it after a while if I can't create a piece of music and work on it. A synthesizer on its own, whether it's a Polybrute 12 or whether it's a Casio VL tone, it's not going to sort of tick those boxes where I want to sit down and make music, But
Meryl, keep note. Yeah. Whenever someone asks this fucking question, give them 10 seconds.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Scott Sound wants to know what's the best car you have ever owned, and if money was no object, what would be your ultimate car?
Best car I've ever owned. I've never had. the sportiest car I ever owned, which wasn't really that sporty, but I remember at the time thinking I was a dog with two dicks, was a 5-cylinder Fiat Bravo HGT, which is basically like a hot hatch. There was 155 brake horsepower, which in the late 90s was pretty good for a car like that, and it sounded absolutely gorgeous, and it was really fast. So I liked that. The best car I've ever owned, I think, is the one that I own right now, which is the VW Arteon Fastback. Because
I have to see what that is. Ooh.
What is that?
They've literally just stopped making it. It's kind of like it's a coupe saloon car, so it's a 4-door coupe.
Steve, can you link that?
big.
Or Chrome, can you link that?
Yeah, well, who's the
that vehicle?
manufacturer?
Yeah. Who
VW.
makes it?
Oh,
VW
VW.
Arteon.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
but I've got the fastback version. I really would like the shooting brake, which is the estate version, but they've literally just stopped making them. So I might pick another one of those up. I've had, and for me, I love it because it's a car that it's got power, it's got style, but also I can drive all the way to Italy in it and feel amazing. Because it's so comfortable and easy to drive, and that. So as I've got older, I think if I could have any car. Lotus Esprit Mark III Turbo, yeah, that would be my dream car, because they're made in the county just up the road here. My dad used to know Colin Chapman, who owned Lotus, and it was always the dream car as a kid.
That's for every kid. Scott did say something earlier, which I agree with towards you. For people like you in your profession, we highly depend on people with good morals, with a good solid foundation like you, Robbie, to give us the honest opinion of products so we can better be informed to make our decisions. I think like Scotty said, it's a tough job, but I'm sure glad people like you are doing it, because with your hard-earned money, you just want to make a smart purchase, even if you're doing your due diligence. And even at the end of the day, the customer is the one responsible.
Yeah.
People just want an honest opinion.
But to it also takes a special person to be able to do that and take the hellfire coming your way.
No, the negative from it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It happens everywhere, doesn't it?
247 has a question. What music artist would you most like to have a drink with?
Ooh, damn.
Well, the first answer has been and always will be Prince, but that's never going to happen. It was never going to happen when he was alive. It was, I would have loved
Oh,
to.
you never say never.
I spoke to Prince very, very briefly, and I was like 6 feet away from the guy, and he asked me and a few of these other people how y'all doing, and we were like, really well, Mr. Prince. But I would have loved to have experienced him as a human in his environment doing what he does. I would have just loved to have done that. There's so many musicians. I mean, I was really lucky. I spent time talking to Neil Tennant from the Pet Shop Boys, who was a huge hero of mine. But I would like to speak to an artist called Billy No Mates, who's this young woman who's just an incredible songwriter, and is just so brilliant, and she's so innocent but passionate, and she's a real fighter. She's great. I'd love to sort of chat with her and get her thoughts on things. But I'd love to have spoken to John Lennon, Ringo. The heroes, early heroes. So many. I could go on.
You guys have any more questions? I have a question from Bosch Tick.
Yeah, let's leave it all to chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could I just take a quick toilet break? Because
go.
Is that okay?
Sure,
Go.
Go.
I'll be right back.
Go.
Yeah.
Turn
Of
that
course.
drone up while that man doing that.
So we don't hear him, or what?
Tinkle, 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 sprinkle. Man, I would really like to have a conversation with Dave Matthews Band.
Oh, yeah. I would like to have a conversation.
Tyson said, take the mic. Robbie, he said, take the mic, Robbie.
I would love to have a conversation with the lead singer to Manchester Orchestra. What's his name?
Oh, yes. I don't know his name.
Oh, that's a nice car.
Matt said, quick, kill the stream.
Okay, everybody go now.
Thanks for posting that, Steve. It's
Oh,
pretty
that is a nice
pretty
car.
nice vehicle.
Mm-hmm. They always make nicer cars overseas, don't they? Wagyu said, I've heard Robbie pee before.
Well, what did it sound like, Wags? Like a thoroughbred?
Alexa, lights off.
Who said that? Kent?
Homegrown.
Okay. Sound like
No,
something Kent
Kent.
would say.
Kent went, Kent left. He wasn't feeling well. That decaf or caffeine withdrawal is
Yeah, I feel for that bastard.
kicking his ass.
He's going through a lot.
It's like a horse pissing in a pond. That's pretty loud, sir. It's-
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, James. Like,
yeah, people are people, man. You can't get away from people, man. That's just...
the Hoover man don't deserve any negativity in his life. If they only knew the magic stank that was embedded on your fingers,
Oh,
sir.
yeah. Uncle Jerry's World says, that's an amazing drone for a piss.
Oh, hell yeah.
James, I think James Dyson, did you agree to come on for an interview?
He did, but
He
I
did,
think
right?
I think Steve is hooking him up with the mic, or
I
they're
thought he
trying
had
to
a
figure
mic.
it
I
out.
thought he had a mic ready.
Well, it was on his laptop,
oh,
his.
he did agree to it.
Yeah,
Well, if he has a mic on his laptop, that works fine.
that works fine too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
You have to be able to defend yourselves.
A Division, we've done many hardware jams.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes. Oh.
You feel better now?
Yeah, my bladder's not what it used to be. Dear,
55 young. 55, you're still young.
You're
You
still
got-
very young.
I wish I felt that way. There was there a comment just before I went about Mark Doty and Prince in the chat? Do you know who Mark is?
I don't.
So Mark is a synth historian. He's a really good friend, a lovely guy. What he doesn't know isn't worth knowing. And I went to Eden Prairie.
Mark Doty worked for Paisley Mark and only saw Prince once.
Yeah. He worked at Paisley Park Enterprises and was actually at Paisley Park Studios once. And there was this encounter where Mark was going up the escalator and Prince was coming down. Like, no eye contact was made, and that was that. But I went to Eden Prairie for work. Mark at the time lived there. He said, "Oh, I'll take you to Paisley Park," because it was just after Prince died. And he brought with him a bag, a little clear plastic bag with these gold pieces of confetti in there. And that was from a gig that he saw at Paisley Park where Prince was performing. It was the time he was writing Slave on his face and he was going by the squiggle. And this gold confetti was what came down at this show. And he gave me this bag of confetti and I forgot it. I left it there. And that's the closest I've ever got to Prince, is standing outside Paisley Park. And I've got some confetti that was fallen on the floor. But Mark was a dear friend. Or is a dear friend, should I say. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
I seeing the body electric is asking, do you wish you were making the tea for Scritini?
Oh, Scritty.
Yes, when they were recording Cupid and Sync 85.
Yeah, Cupid and Psyche 85 is, in my opinion, one of the greatest albums of all time. And I will fight anyone who says otherwise. And I do wish, I've been so fortunate to have interviewed David Gamson, who was Scritty's keyboard and writing partner. And I've interviewed him on 2 or 3 occasions. He's actually a good friend now. We keep in touch, and he's supposed to be selling me a piece of their gear from the Scritty days. Anyway,
nice.
But Green Gartside is the lead singer of Scritty, and he's always been Scritty Politti, and these other people sort of work around him. And I've been to see Scritty play live many times, and one time, because I know the keyboard player and the guitarist, they pulled me over to one side and they said, if you go in the bar, Green's coming down. Do you want us to introduce you? And I'm like, oh, God, please. So we're in the bar, and I'm with my wife and one of our friends, and I go to the bar to get some drinks. And as I come back to my wife and our friend, she's all giddy with excitement. Oh, I've just been speaking to Green Guardside. Oh, he's so lovely. He's so lovely. I'm thinking, hang on a minute. Before I brought you to this gig, you weren't really a fan. And so she said, oh, but he's coming back. He's coming back. So he comes back and she waves him over. She's being a little bit embarrassing, but she's had a few vinos. And he comes over and he's holding 2 pints of beer. One for him and one for somebody else. And he comes over and I just go completely cotton-mouthed. And I'm just like, thank you. I said something along the lines of thank you for all your music. It's meant a lot to me or whatever. And I think he thought I was just talking about the gig. And he said, oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it, sort of thing. And he's a bit shy. And it was an awkward moment. And I didn't want it to end, but I wanted it desperately to end. And so I said, oh, look, he said, I've got to put these down. I said, oh, absolutely. Yeah, don't let me keep you. And I just instinctively put my hand out to shake his hand. It's just what I do. I always, shake someone's hand. Just as I realised that he's holding 2 pints of beer and he's unable to shake a hand. So he offers me his index finger. This is so fucking awkward. He puts his index finger out.
God, Robbie.
And what I should have done was say, no, off you go, mate. It was a pleasure to watch you tonight. Thank you. I grabbed hold of his finger and I shook his finger.
For fuck's sake, Robbie.
For fuck's sake. But
I touched Green's finger.
But
Oh,
on
my
the other side of the coin, he recognized that you were a fan of his.
Right.
And the only form of contact that he could give you at the time
was a finger.
And the guy was at least thoughtful enough to say, I'm not going to leave here until this guy gets some sort of interaction with me.
James is
Like,
not
how
the only
humble
one
is that?
offering fingers.
Right.
Yeah.
How humble is that?
Icing is saying, isn't he also like 6'10"?
He's huge. He's so nice. That's the thing. He's just
See, and that's what I'm getting at.
That
Matt
finger
Evans
might as
said-
well have been a hand for Robbie.
Yeah, for reals. Matt Evans said, fucking hell, Rob.
Oh, I know. I hate. But the thing was, I did the similar thing with Neil Tennant from the Pet Shop Boys. I was at this premiere screening of this film that my friend had made, and he's a mutual friend of, well, not just the Pet Shop Boys, but New Order and all these other people. But he's a friend of mine as well, which is weird. And I was sat down, and Neil Tennant sits down next to me. And, the Pet Shop Boys have been absolutely huge as far as influence is concerned. And I saw him, and I was like, oh, I'm never going to get this chance again, but I really don't like to do this. And I almost said, and this will only make sense to Pet Shop Boys fans, I almost leaned over and said, I wouldn't normally do this kind of thing, which, of course, is the name of a Pet Shop Boys song. And I thought that would have been really, really fucking cheesy. And luckily, I stopped myself from doing it. And I leaned over and I said, excuse me, I hope you don't mind, but I wouldn't get the chance to do this, and I hate myself if I didn't, but I just want to say thank you, because your and Chris's music has just been so important to me. And he turned around, he looked at me, and he said, oh, that's such a nice thing to say. So, and then he just starts talking, and we're having this conversation, just like a normal conversation. And we're talking about how we know the guys whose film it was. We started talking about Bowie, because Bowie had died a few days before. This was early 2016. And we started talking because we're both big Bowie fans. And then he summons over one half of New Order, Steve and Gillian from New Order, who, again, a massive fan of. So I'm sat there. I've got Neil Tennant, Steve and Gillian, and then the Pet Shop Boys designer who's done all of their sleeves, which, I've got hanging on my walls and stuff. He comes, it's just amazing. But I'm useless in those situations. I just clam up. Absolutely
Bobby
clam
goes,
up.
That leads me to my question, Robbie. And I think we're on some sort of telepathic communication right now. I know you probably don't believe in that. But the best Robbie story of his whole existence, you thought this was the pinnacle of life, the best story that I have in my life. Go right now. Give it to us.
Well, the meeting Prince was one that will always, even though it was a brief thing.
Though? But did you really meet him?
Wait, hold on, Robbie.
Yeah.
For future Robbie purposes, I'm gonna save your marriage right now.
Okay.
You should have said meeting my wife.
Oh
Damn.
my God.
Yeah, but she
Dude, Robbie!
The fact that she brought that up now has changed the narrative.
Watch it.
Yeah. No.
Okay, now.
Anyway, so Prince.
Okay.
Back to Prince.
Okay, yeah. Okay, now you're second. Go ahead.
She was
Now you're
there as
second.
well.
Now you're
She
second.
was with me at the time, so it was a shared experience. So I was a member of Prince's many versions of his fan club, particularly in the noughties when he was doing all of this online stuff and he was releasing music online. And you paid because he was a numerologist, or he was very into numbers, and so the membership fee was $77.77 a year, but you got all of this music thrown in, physical and digital. But you also got access to special tickets for the shows. So he did this tour called, it was the Musicology tour. Or was it 3121? No, it was the One Night Alone. Sorry, it's One Night Alone tour. And he came to London, and I bought the ticket through the fan club, and we were all told to show up at 3 p.m. in the afternoon because we were going to watch Prince sound check. So we were like stupidly excited. There was going to be a couple of hundred people in the auditorium watching Prince sound check. So that was all I needed to know. Mm-hmm. So we get our lanyards, we get our wristbands, we get all of the stuff. We're told that the first 10 rows of the auditorium are ours. Find your seat. I managed to get one like 3 rows from the front, dead center. And we're just sort of like, shuffling into our seat, and Jackie has turned round to, I think, put her coat on the back of the chair, and she taps me on the shoulder and she says, "It's Prince." And I'm like, "What?" "It's Prince." And so I slowly turned around, like 2 rows back from us, in what I seem to remember is a lime green velour jumpsuit with the heels like this. Mm-hmm. Sitting in the chair with his feet up on the back of the chair in front is Prince Rogers Nelson. And I'm just like, and there's no security guards, there's no minders, there's no nothing. And he just says, I can't exactly what he said, but he says, "Hi, how you doing? Where have you come from? Are you well?" That kind of stuff. And we're all like, this isn't real. This is Prince. He's up there, mm-hmm. But he's. And so I think we all sort of replied, and I just said something, like, "Yeah, I'm really good, thanks. Looking forward to the show," or something like that. And then we just sort of mingled. We didn't really know what else to do because you just don't know. And he was being so cool, so normal, so natural. Mm-hmm. And then he just said, "Right," something like, let's do this. And he literally springs out of this chair, kind of skips across to the stage. His guitar tech throws this guitar up to him. He catches the guitar, he puts it on. The band are on stage. They're all tuning up, and he does a 20-minute version of a track called Days of Wild, which is one of my favorite all-time Prince tracks, as the sound check. It was incredible. And then he goes off, and then he does the show, and it's just absolutely amazing. And that was a pretty big moment because he was special. He was just...
I've heard that.
So special.
And Dave Chappelle paints a lot of pretty stories about Prince's lifestyle, but he always said at the end, Prince was one of the nicest people and artists, the realest artist you would ever meet, and that he was not bought.
Right, but he was
he
also
had a wicked sense of humor as well.
Yeah, but he was also
Real
deep into conspiracies too. He was deep into chemtrails and
unfortunately, I say this, and I'll stand by it. When he hooked up with Larry Graham around the turn of the millennium, and Larry Graham, one of the greatest bass players, if not the. Superb musician, but and Prince was a huge fan, a massive fan, and so when those two connected and were making music together, it was great. Prince, Larry Graham, Shaka Khan, all these people sort of just amazing. However, Larry Graham is deeply entrenched in the Jehovah's Witness religion, flavor of whatever, and he converted Prince. And that's fine. Prince was always a very religious man. So whether he's following this or that, he was always a deeply religious guy. And then I say, I'm not, but I never held that against him. It was, it certainly informed a lot of his material, and it was absolutely fine. However, one of the aspects of the Jehovah's Witness faith is that they don't allow blood transfusions. It's I don't know, I don't know where it all stems from, but they do not allow blood transfusions. So because Prince fucked his knees and his hips up, because he's 5 foot nothing, dancing in 6-inch heels, doing some of the most incredible dance moves. He fucked his body up badly, and he could have had surgery that would have sorted that out, but he didn't have the surgery because of his faith.
Right.
And he relied on painkillers.
Yeah.
And lots of people supplied him with extra painkillers because he needed them, because he was addicted and he was in a lot of pain, and that pain could have been relieved. And that's why Prince died. And I kind of hate Larry Graham because of that. Because had that not happened, somebody who was so special and so great would have maybe still been around.
Yeah.
That's how Bob Marley died.
Yeah.
His faith didn't allow him to seek medical assistance.
It was cancer, wasn't it, with him?
Oh, no, it was gout.
Gout.
Oh, it was gout, was it? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is wild. It was curable, but he let it progress and get
worse and worse.
And
Yeah.
it turned.
So crazy.
I'm with Simon. Prince should have never let Simon go.
No.
Yeah.
No. And I'm still mad at that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Prince sacked a lot of people. He did.
He did.
But I think I said this on another show. Prince had a very unique look on a lot of things, but one thing he didn't recognize was time. And so when Prince wanted to work, that's when Prince worked. It didn't matter what time of the day it was. And if you wanted to work with Prince, you had to, give into that and give yourself to that method of working. And some people did, and got shattered for it. Susan Rogers eventually, she gave up being his engineer because she just couldn't carry on doing that. But that's what these people do. They are the next level. That's why they're so successful, is because they can ignore the things that the constraints that we generally put upon ourselves in society today. They can ignore that, and they can afford to ignore that. And most of us can't. So
Right.
Yeah. James Dyson has another question for
bloody
Robbie.
hell, James.
So who would you love to have on the PSN show that has not been on?
Prince.
Who is alive?
Who was alive?
Yeah.
Somebody who's alive that I'd love to have. Well, I mean, I could sit here and reel off all of my heroes, because if it's an excuse to talk to them. But as far as the PSN shows, I would want somebody who I think is amazing, but also our community. So I'd love to talk to Gary Newman, because a lot of people hold him up as this kind of pioneer, but by his own admission, when he released Our Friends Electric, it was the song that went to the top of the charts that kind of blew the lid off the synthesizer revolution that was happening. But there was a lot of people behind him that had been doing this for some while, and they hadn't had hits, and he basically opened the door. That's his words, not mine. He opened the door, and I'd love to talk to him. He's a big hero of mine. Martin Gore from Depeche Mode. In fact, all of Depeche Mode. Alan Wilder even, because just groundbreaking. I'd love to interview Peter Vogel, because Peter Vogel's a friend of mine, but he lives on the other side of the world, and he's a very busy man, and we can never do that because he is under-celebrated. He is to sampling what Bob Moog is to analog synthesizers, and there's no question about that. And he doesn't get the recognition he deserves for literally changing the way we make music with the Fairlight. He basically gave us digital sampling. Where would we all be without digital sampling?
Right.
I've had the fortune to interview Dave Rossum, as Andrew has just put into the chat, not for PSN, but for Sound on Sound. Same with John Channing. I've interviewed John Channing, the father of FM. I'd love to get those guys on, but again, they're in their latter years. They're either busy or it's just not really what they do. But yeah, I'd love to get those. Thomas Dolby, yeah, there's one. absolutely. Thomas Dolby, huge.
And we
hero.
and we stand corrected. Bob Marley did die from cancer. It started as a dark spot under his toe, and it turned into skin cancer.
Gotcha.
So you let it progress.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't. Yeah, James says Jean-Michel Jarre. I'm not. I wouldn't be. Look, if I got a call from Jarre's management and said he would like to be on the PSN show tomorrow, and I'd like, yeah, absolutely, because I know that our audience would love it. Yeah, Kate Bush for sure. Yeah, there's so many. Again, it's just such a long list of people, but also not just the stars. But I'd like to interview, those people that were on the ground but behind the scenes, because they have the best stories.
Yep.
Right.
You talk to Dave Spears of G4 Software. He's never been a rock star and never a pop star, but he's worked with, he drummed for Debbie Harry. He's worked with Underworld for many years. He's done so much, and whenever I go and see him, we just sit there with a single malt, and Dave just talks, and I sit and I listen, and I'm in my happy place. Because the stories he tells are just fantastic and sometimes quite unbelievable, but you know that he's honest. So,
Robbie, we have 15 minutes real quick. Aliens land on your property right now. What does Robbie do and say, and what does he think? Go.
I talk to them and ask them everything. Tell me what you know. That's what I do, because I totally believe that we cannot simply be the only intelligent life forms in the universe, and if we are fortunate enough, and I don't think we have yet, but if we are fortunate enough to encounter another intelligent species from another planet, another world, I want to know everything they know, and I would offer them dinner and sit down and talk to them. That's what I do.
What? Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I have one last question I've been saving because it's a really good last question, but go ahead.
Okay. What? And this is fantasy, but I kind of want a realistic answer too. You wake up one morning, it's all over the news that there's this huge thing just sitting in the sky. Everyone can see it. It doesn't make contact with us, and it's been there for weeks. What goes on in your mind at this point?
Well, God, I don't know. I mean, it would be a bit like that movie Arrival, where there's this thing appears and it's just there and nothing happens, and they're trying to figure out. Yeah, it's great. I mean, what's going through my? I mean, obviously, my initial thought would be concern, because here's something that's unknown, and we need to know what it is. But I would go about it in a peaceful way. I would want to encourage whoever has the ability to try and communicate to do so in a peaceful manner, so that we can learn from each other. But there would be, if there's something just hovering in the sky, had no idea what it was. My initial concern was for my family, and that they're safe, and that I can do whatever I can to reassure them. But
so you're not freaking out like they say people would do then. You're in a pure mode of understanding.
Or wanting to understand. I'd want to know. I wouldn't freak out. I wouldn't run away. Unless, of course, there was an absolute, life or death situation. I would want to know exactly who they were, why they were here, and what can we learn from each other.
That's interesting.
Last question, and it's a good one, from Boshtik 247. What would you like your legacy to be?
Oh, fuck.
Fucking hell.
Well, I think my legacy, the only real legacy that I can leave behind are my children, and I think that I've done so far a pretty good job with them. And so I would like them to go on and lead fulfilling, happy lives, whether it's raising their own family or whether it's, going into a career that they make a difference. No matter how small or big, that they change some people's lives for the better. That's probably my biggest personal, the legacy. it's fleeting, you know. I mean,
Right.
I'm not going to. I will not hang on to all this until the day I die, and if I do, what use is it? I mean, I said to my kids, when I go, you're getting my record collection. They just looked at me like I just told them to fuck off. It was
Right.
They don't want that.
Are your kids
So-
interested in music like you?
Oh yeah, I mean, my son is. He got a qualification from school, music technology, and he's active. He's got. We set him up with a little sort of bunch of gear upstairs in his room. My daughter, she listens to it. She enjoys going to concerts, but she's not an obsessive like I am.
Right.
But yeah, both my sons, my stepson and Luca are both, big lovers of music and going out to gigs. But Luca's definitely the one that's kind of not fallen far from this tree. Should we say.
And he plays synths.
Yeah, he's
mainly?
got synths, and he plays guitar, and he's absolutely chomping at the bit for me to finish clearing my garage out, because we've got some drums being delivered, and so we'll be able to set the drums up again.
Nice.
And he wants to do that. So
And what about your wife? Is she does she play music or is
Nope.
into what you do?
she likes going to gigs. She likes listening to music, but she is an artist, as in a visual artist. So she paints in all sorts of forms. That's her. She's a brilliant artist. She does some amazing work, and she's actually in the last couple of years she's kind of given it a bit of a push, and she's now got her own little workspace, and she's selling stuff. And
Does she have a website?
not at the moment. I'm trying to convince her. She's still very reluctant to sell. She doesn't think that anybody would buy it, and yet people have been buying stuff when they've asked her. So yeah, I'm trying to.
Well,
convince
when she
her.
has it up, you let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she
Yeah.
does some really good stuff. So
Yeah. Okay, so it's 4:50. Get Jervis is on at the top of the hour.
is.
Yes.
Those of you who are tuning in right now and you are new to the S.O.R channel, we are a channel of share your art, but also support others. That's a big staple of ours. We do this for community base. We interview people whom we think stories need to be heard. Robbie does the exact same thing, but only from people who have way more stature than us.
Not so.
But nevertheless, it's the same goal. We
Yeah.
look to understand people. We seek information, and it's interesting what stories people can tell. If you want to be interviewed on S.O.R, please go into the Discord, or MARELYN. You can look up the S.O.R's email on our description.
Yep.
And everybody, this goes to everybody, because everybody has a fascinating story, and we just want to hear it. We're not singling people out, because our channel is, everybody has a great story, and sometimes people don't have the platform to share it, but we all learn something from each other, and that's probably the bigger truth of it all.
Right. So, yeah, don't forget, Popcorn Night is on Friday, just after the PSN show.
And Robbie
And-
has agreed to write a brand new piece for it.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, nice.
So, and it's
You
not just
see
going to
it?
be Christmas.
You see his
And it's not
face?
going to be Christmas.
Where was I?
bells?
And it's not going to be Christmas songs. It's just going to
It's
be
going to be a
nice,
10 or 15-year-old song that I did. Yeah.
No,
yeah.
a
Well, that's
brand new
fine, too.
piece. No. He agreed to do a
Oh, did he?
brand new
Oh, did he
piece.
say
Oh
a
my
brand
God,
new
Yeah,
piece?
brand
Oh.
new
Yeah, is that
spanking
what he
piece.
said?
Yeah.
All on the
Yeah.
poly brute, you say?
Yeah, and another piece of machinery.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
mhm.
we're so
Yeah.
honored.
Actually, now I'm starting to remember this conversation.
Yeah,
Yes,
you remember?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't forget, popcorn night is on Friday. You can submit whatever you want, whether it be a home video, music, old music, new music.
Music that maybe is not done yet. Like
Right.
you just want it out there. Just send it.
Just
don't be
send
shy.
it.
If you don't want people to know it's you, let me know in the email and we'll play it anonymously.
Yeah. And who do we have next Sunday?
Angie,
Okay. So
one of our moderators.
we have one of our moderators.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know who Angie Marie is, she was the girlfriend of Simply Risky, who
recently passed
December 5th. And he was our best friend, and he pushed us into this. And
and they were both here to celebrate our 100th.
day in a row podcast / music. So that will be a very emotional conversation, but yet a story that needs to be heard nonetheless.
Yeah. So tune in for that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Robbie.
No,
You
my
have
pleasure.
been
It was
ace.
so much fun. And
Anytime.
thank you for always hopping into our stream when we have it open and being so supportive from our channel.
And you hop in there and you play with us. And I think that's one of the biggest things we try to encourage is people just to not think and just
do
play.
it.
And just
Yeah.
play.
And you're a great example of that. And I really believe when you and Kent and Cresshead and James Dyson and Scott and Viral Beats and
Justin.
and Recon, like when you guys,
Hop
come on
in.
board, it really encourages people to come on, because even the guys I named, they all have different skill sets, and yet we still sound beautiful together. And that's what it's about. Despite our beliefs and what our personality is, our music and our love for music
brings us together.
and it
Music
goes
is a great
together.
leveler.
Right.
It's a great
Yeah.
leveler.
and
Yeah,
it,
it
and
is.
it supersedes everything that
Yeah,
it
and-
just says we have everything in common.
And for that one moment in time, we're all connected and we're all having fun.
Right.
Yeah.
And can I'd just like to say thank you to you guys for all that you do. I had no idea who you were until a few months ago when Kent said, "Have you heard of these symptoms of reality, guys?" And I'm like, "No, should I?" And he said, "Yeah, I think you should." And so here we are. But thank you. I enjoy. I don't catch every day at the moment. I try and catch most, and I'll try and do and catch up if I can. And whenever you invite us to join in, it's always a real pleasure. So thank you. And also, I just want to say thank you. There's so many comments that are flashing by that I've just.
Oh yeah, we got
I'm not
time.
ignoring
Yes.
you.
Yeah, we got time. Go ahead.
But thank you to everyone that's saying some really very sweet and kind things.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Everybody's saying what a great interview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, thank you for what you do, Robbie. You're one. Well, you would know more, but you and your peers who keep it honest, who keep it real, and who take the job serious and have moral values and care about the consumer as much as you care about the people that make the products. You are a great middleman. You are a great spokesman for both parties, and without you, we really will be guessing on informed decisions. So thank you for what you do. You are highly appreciated in the synth world.
you.
Now, I only hope that there's some big old bass god in the sky that says, I like that way that Moser guy plays, and I'm going to send him a really nice bass to go ahead and review for us.
I'm
You
sure
gotta
there's
do what
somebody
you
out
gotta
there.
do what Robbie said and just reach out to people.
Well, this is it.
I'm not
Start
that
emailing.
good, though.
No,
I'm
no, you
Larry
see, I was
Graham.
exactly the same.
I'm
I
not
was
that good of a
exactly the
player.
Tell him,
No.
Robbie.
They would
No.
not be interested in somebody.
him, Robbie.
They're
Seriously.
looking for
What are you
Victor
saying,
Wooten.
Robbie? What are you?
I was exactly the same. I thought nobody's going to pay me the blindest bit of attention. Who the fuck am I? I'm nobody. And somebody pushed me. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. I miss him desperately. But he, from New York, shouted in an email some very, very harsh curse words and just told me to fucking do it. And I couldn't not do it because he was going to keep checking up on me. So I did it. And it worked. And I got an in. And then I formed a relationship. And then when you form one relationship, you can then go to somebody else and say, I'd like to form a relationship with you. And by the way, I've already got a relationship with these guys. And then it snowballs, and then doors will start to open. But you've got to just believe in yourself that you do have something to offer, and that's all you got to do. You just got to believe in yourself.
And that's for everybody out there
Everybody
who's
out there.
doubting themselves.
In anything, whether it's music or you know,
including your wife.
Yeah. Real quick, while we still have 3 minutes, thank you to Viral Beats, who always pushes the Symptoms of Reality crew, and he's always promoting us. I watch a lot of things you think I don't watch, Viral, so
We're always
thank
lurking.
you. You're a big part of what's going on. Thank you to Recon, who continuously digs and digs and digs on his channel to find loyal listeners, and Reconsider It Music Sketchpad is amazing. To Jeff, he's on at 9:30 almost every night for the month of January.
You might catch his
Jeff
feet.
Hopkins.
Yes. The breathalyzer, we caught him again this morning. These people are doing something amazing.
They're very talented.
Very talented. If you get a chance, the Crazy Rabbits drone this morning he released was, I was like, oh, so now we got something special with the rabbit. Now he's going places. But to all of you viewers, this is not possible without you. And if we want anything negative said about this channel, it's we play music and we're constantly trying to help people. And
we're a bunch of lunatics.
And we're
every
a
now
bunch
and
of
then.
lunatics.
Yeah.
S.O.R rage forever.
Yeah.
Also, quick shout out to Kent. I know he had to pop off because he had one of his little turns, but
Yeah.
hopefully he's still watching. So hope you're feeling better, mate.
Kent Spong.
Yes,
Kent
The
Spong.
pub. Get
Yeah.
over to the pub and watch Kent Spong.
Yeah. Okay.
Repair synthesizer.
Get Jervis is next at 5
Go
o'clock.
see Jason.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Jackson.
Go see Jackson.
Go see Jackson.
Thank you so much, Robbie,
Yeah.
once again.
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Shout out to Wookie.
Shout out
Yes.
to Wookie.
Get healthy,
yes,
Wookie.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Peace, you
Thank
guys.
you.
Thanks.
Bye. Thanks.